Quick step, pulling it along. They have Alan Davis, who's in reasonably good form. He was quick the other day, and he wasn't too far off Mark Cavendish. It was the starting the sprint that was the problem for Alan Davis the other day, and almost not quite entirely unlike catching him would be the way that perhaps Douglas Adams would say that. But Alan Davis clearly coming into better, getting his sprint legs.
Well, he's been up there, and you know, all the bunch sprints he's been there and very much involved, but just a little bit off the pace. And against Cavendish on Sunday, he, was certainly never going to get over Cavendish in the wheel. And when Cav went, he just started to lose a little bit of ground all the way to the line. And also we see in a sprint there with Bosenhagen for the second place on one of the stages, also beat by Bosenhagen. So I think he's doubting a little bit. He's sprinting at the moment, but pressure on from the team as well. The team, I think, is built around him to a certain extent, and they're going to try, keep on trying, and hopefully, he will have a little bit more luck, maybe get in the good position. And you always try as a sprinter, and the director of Sportive will always push him and push the team to prepare the sprint for him in the best possible way.
Well, LPR concerned about keeping Danilo Di Luca out of trouble, as is their absolutely have to do. Anthony Chateau coming towards the front for the first time. We haven't seen him very much in the yellow shoes there for Estepania, and a lot of riders coming around the outside now to just try and get themselves in a decent position. There is Lance Armstrong, as you can see, with it's Francesco Maschirelli on one side of him and Thomas Fokler on the other. Thank you for writing in, Tony Bakovic, who said, there's a race in Croatia I did. It was 135 kilometers long, and the main sponsor was a bakery. My prize was a single donut. That's great. A single donut. Gosh, well, we should get them all together. Fantastic. And not wishing to cause any marital strife. Sorry, Dave. I misread your email. Morgan was your goddaughter, not your daughter. That could have caused all family arguments there. I'm terribly sorry, Dave. Please tell the parents of Morgan that you're not the father. And it's all my mistake. And half of Europe now thinks you are. So I'm terribly sorry. Never mind. It's all very difficult to read emails and look at the telly and read stuff from Peter King and talk to Sean and look at the Parker at the same time. I'm sorry about parentage there. 25 kilometers to go for Marco Manzano. Well, it's a brave attempt by Manzano. LPR certainly aren't going to be the ones to take up the cudgel at the moment, and there's hardly any gap really to speak of. And you can see Columbia High Road now coming towards the front. They've got a man in the front beginning to add to the pacemaking. Also on the far left-hand side looks like Fabian Cancellara of the Saxo Bank squad was coming towards the front. JJ Haydo. Well, maybe Haydo could try and do something. He's been miles off this year. The Argentinian sprinter has never really managed to make it up towards the front. Everybody was talking about in the Tour of California. Just simply didn't happen for JJ Haydo. No such problems down the back here for Felix Cardenas. Just sitting with his hands on the top of the bars, just wheeling along. Counter-attack again, Sean. Looks like classic counter-attack territory.
Well, yes, it is that sort of terrain, but it's going to get more and more difficult as we, get closer to the finish here. The 25-kilometer mark. So we're getting towards the top of the Torino, because 20 kilometers from the top, roughly. So it's going to start, upping the pace here, and I think the bunch is going to go really fast as we get closer to the summit. Everybody wants to be in a good position for this descent, and that's going to make it really difficult for anybody to get out of the bunch from here on. And this descent, you know, as we mentioned earlier, Milan-San Remo, a lot of the riders will know it very well, and it is a very dangerous one. It's a very fast descent and a lot of hairpins, so nervous time for everybody here. We can see the answer to it, you know, as Astana comes to the front with Leipheimer here and Popovic. They're all going to be trying to keep their general classement men to the front, and also the sprinters who are going for the stage victory. They're going to have to, you know, be up there as well. So it will be certainly, you know, a very, very fast descent, and they will really push it as we get closer to the summit.
There we are, the sign towards the Torino for Marco Manzano. Still trying hard. I know Esther will be really happy to see him out there. Big Lamprey fan. Not many seconds though between him and the chasing pack, and not long before he's swallowed, and that's really a case of just keeping that pace high, Sean, to keep everybody out of trouble, not allowing them to get across the road or come around the outside towards the front. It's just at the moment everything's under control. I think it is going to get more nervous though.
Yes, well, certainly you can feel it there. It's, you know, it's on the way. The nervousness is in the bunch there, and it will get more as we get closer to the top. And you know, the teams will be making a lot of moves here, and just to get positioning is so important to begin the climb. And you know, this one, as we can see, we're on the climb here. It drags up very, very gradually, and the last little bit of the climb is get a little bit steeper, but nothing to bother anybody here. The sprinters will get over without any difficulty, and it's going to be, you know, a very, very fast and very hotly contested downhill, because at the bottom it's onto the seafront, and you have about 10 k's on the flat, so you have to be up there in the top 20-25 riders, because you know, if you fall back on the descent, the effort you have to make to get to the front, you know, you pay that price as you get closer to the finish. So you know, we can see it here. It's just starting to. It's just going to, it's up and up in the speed here at the moment.
So taking back Marco Manzano, and it's now Astana on the front. I think it's Andre Zeitz who's doing the pace setting on the front. Interesting, Di Luca sitting right behind them, keeping well out of trouble. The Acqua Sapone boys moving up towards the front of the right-hand side of your screen in the red. Just ahead of them, Liquigas, of course, Pellizotti and Basso both in good positions. They want to keep out of trouble. Pellizotti yesterday, I know they said they came into this with dual leaders, Sean, but I couldn't believe that, in fact, Basso, a former winner, 2006 winner of the Giro d'Italia, I couldn't believe, in fact, that he was not going to come in here as the protected rider. But it seems to me Pellizotti is possibly in better shape.
It looks that way at the moment, and certainly, you know, he's the one who was going in the attacks, and he's been in a few times. And yesterday he moved up a couple of places, fifth in the general at the moment. He was in 9th position, so you know, he made a nice bit of progress yesterday, as some of the other big favourites also did. And you know, you have to try with your team. If you've got two in the Liquigas, you have two riders, Pellizotti, Basso, you have to start working at Di Luca and see what way he's feeling. And I think Di Luca, you know, he's played very cool yesterday. He let Pellizotti go ahead and just let the thing happen, didn't panic immediately, and then went in the attack afterwards. So you know, the confidence was there yesterday from Di Luca, certainly. But if you've got the you know, the good legs and you feel good, you can do that, and you don't have to react immediately. So you know, certainly I think there's more of that to come from Liquigas. They're going to try and test Di Luca at any time, but yesterday wasn't the day, and especially with that run down yesterday into the finish, it was always going to Di Luca, because the little time he would have lost, he could make up a lot on the descent, as he did, and it was certainly, you know, a perfect situation for him, a perfect running yesterday.
Well, where have we seen this before? The Astana team, or the team of Lance Armstrong on the front, is setting the pace at the moment. It's Yannick Brakovic climbing here ahead of everybody else, all strung out in a line. Popovic, I think, is the last man in this little line, and then just behind them is Levi Leipheimer. And this is tailing off a few people at the back. Marco Manzano, we've just seen, is now going out of the back door, with Brakovic still setting the pace. Behind, I can see Scarponi with his helmet slung to the back of his head in a rakish fashion, as he normally does. Second to last is in this line of Astanas is Lance Armstrong. And then at the back, it's Jose Luis Rubiera, just now being tailed off, and grinding his way up the climb is Jeremy Hunt from the Cervelo test team. Sastre will want to keep towards the front here as Brajkovic still pushes on. Garzelli in the green jersey sits behind Leipheimer, the pink jersey of Di Luca, with Carlos Sastre, the dark horse, on his right-hand side. And now it looks like Lance Armstrong himself coming towards the front to up the pace a little bit. A familiar scene, Sean.
Yes, it certainly is, and as we go, the 20 kilometres, getting close to the summit here, and they're just really pushing it on. And when you see on the front here, it's difficult, to calculate how fast they're going. But when you see the rear end of the bunch, as we can see here, gaps appearing everywhere. That tells us that they're really, pushing on a very strong pace here. And of course, for Leipheimer to get onto this descent is going to be so important in the front, and that's what they're going to do here, and keep him really on the front of the bunch as we come to the descent of this final climb.
Borjigin keeping Cunego up towards the front, and himself on the right-hand side of this group. Sitting behind the pink jersey of Danilo Di Luca is Marzio Borjigin. You can see the big, tall figure there in lamprey colours, and there's Cunego just behind him. And who else can we see up towards the front? Menchov, again, sitting a little bit further down. Vokla is just ahead of him for Bouygues Telecom on the right-hand side of your shot. They're in the blue with the white and red, white roundel in the middle. Third category only, the Passa del Ticino, but that really doesn't give it justice. I mean, a third category can feel like an all category if they're going this fast up it.
Yes, well, it depends on what rate they're going exactly. And, if you're, big powerhouses, as we see Popovic on the front there, when he turns up the gas, I tell you, it can be very difficult, even, on a third category climb. And it's, creating a lot of damage here. And, of course, as we come to, this little bit of a tunnel here, everybody wants to be in the front there as well, because it is lit. But there's a little bit of darkness there from the past. I remember. Here
comes Garzelli. He wants to get over the top and try and attack, spring a surprise on them through the tunnel. That's what he wants to do. This is what Vin Denson did coming into, I can't remember which finish it was. Not in the Giro d'Italia, but he did in one of the other races. When everybody was looking around, he jumped them in the tunnel and zipped off to win. It was a tunnel into a velodrome. It might have been Bordeaux, Paris, actually, where he got a place on that. Through the tunnel they go. No room to mess about in here. Just got to make your way through. There's a lot of people being tailed off the back, and I should think there's a few hurt legs there. Garzelli now leading them down the other side. There's a big group still together, though. So Garzelli goes over the top first, then Lance Armstrong, and then Levi Leipheimer. That's the order at the top of the Passa del Ticino, the third category climb, and it's Armstrong leading them down. Well, I think that's more about controlling pace than anything else, Sean. He's certainly, he's a good descender, but he's not going to be attacking, I don't think.
No, certainly not. He's just going to lead them down, and if Armstrong's in the front, a lot of people will just leave him do it, and really not push it. And he can, descend very, very well, and he's not going to take big risk here. Just keep it going at a good rate, and that way I think everybody just will follow, and that will suit for the team as well. For Leipheimer, nobody on the front who's going to go crazy and maybe cause problems for a lot of the riders.
Congratulations to Crispin of the Swindon Road Club. Crispin Doyle, my old teammate, won a two-day stage race, the Étape de la Défense. Well done. Your second cat now. Blimey, should have kept racing. Well done, Crispin. He still wields an awful lot of influence, doesn't he, Sean, even after 3 years away. If Lance Armstrong does something, there's not a lot of people want to take him on head-to-head.
No, certainly not. And as I mentioned, if he's leading down the descent and he's going at a good rate, which we can see here, he's pushing it on. Everybody is stretched out one line. That tells us the speed is quite high. Not a lot of people will try and come by him here on the descent and try and up the pace. They will just leave him do it.
Why not, after all? Would have been interesting to see what had happened if Filippo Simeoni's team had been picked Flaminia, the Italian champion, not in the Giro d'Italia because his team wasn't included as a wild card entry. And we all know the story about Filippo Simeoni and Lance Armstrong. The two of them not the best of friends. They tolerate each other now, I would suggest is probably the best way of putting it. But Simeoni absolutely livid that as he is the Italian national road race champion. He feels, of course, that his team was left out because Lance was coming. But he's not here. Would have been fascinating to see. He's still leading them on pretty handily with Leipheimer in his wheel. I think it's Popovic behind that, then Garzelli, then probably Cunego. Although it's a tad bit wobbly to find out at the moment. Of course, it could be the case, Sean, that he hasn't felt too comfortable being behind people in the last few days in the Giro d'Italia. So if he can lead out, he feels a little bit more comfortable that there aren't people around him.
Yes, well, that is the situation. If you're further back in the bunch, of course, you know, there's always a possibility that riders will come by you on going into the corners. And if you're leading on the front, you have the motorbike out in front. We could see that, and you know, you follow that, and it's a good guide down. And also, you know, you're out in front. You're certainly out of that situation where there's no riders, you know, out in front of you who can make mistakes. It's certainly the best way to do it, but you have to make the effort here. Although he's on the front going downhill and the motorbike is that little bit further on, you know, it takes that quite a bit of an effort, but he's certainly, you know, going to continue on doing it. He wants to hold the front here. We can see that because the speed also 63 kilometers an hour just a moment ago. He's going at a very good rate.
What about tomorrow's time trial for Lance Armstrong, Sean? A good course for him if he's in shape?
Well, certainly it would be a good course, a very good course if he was in shape. But the question, you know, will he really go for tomorrow? Because if you go really 100% tomorrow over 60 kilometres, it's certainly a big ask, and maybe he will say it's better that I just ride this one and not give it 100%, recover a bit, because the next days after the time trial are very difficult, and he wants to get a long ways through this Giro. Maybe he will go to the end. He said he's going to go all the way to the finish in Rome. So, you know, I would be a little bit concerned in his position to go really at it tomorrow, because there's a lot of difficult stages to come.
Mechanical for Filippo Simeoni, so Race Radio tells us. Just a quick question, I think I'm right in saying this. Lynn Lee says, what happened to David Miller's bike years ago, or last year actually, when he chucked it over the barriers just 200 metres or so, or 800 metres before the line when the chain snapped? That was here in the Giro d'Italia, wasn't it? He was in a break, and they'd have picked it up, Lynn. They'd have picked it up and taken it back and just put a new chain on it. Didn't stay there. I haven't seen Miller at all, of course. There we go. That's a good indication of what it's like to be passed around the outside on a bend, as the rider from Liquigas makes about 3 or 4 places. Di Luca right behind Armstrong now. Di Luca very comfortable descending in this sort of situation. He's a very good descender, very punchy rider, knows this course very well. And I'm not so sure, actually, that Lance Armstrong doesn't want to prove a little point in terms of Milan-San Remo, because this year, not in the best of shape, and all sorts of criticisms. Well, not criticisms, but just little pointed barbs. And those sort of things, he's the sort of man that he remembers those sorts of things, does Lance. And now showing that he is in a good shape. I'm just sending out an indicator that on this course, it was just the timing and the coming back that was the case. Well, he's pulling out a little bit of a gap on other people, so he's certainly going for it, but can't shake Di Luca, who's behind him. There's Edvald Boasson-Hagen in the middle of the group, wearing the Ciclamino jersey, of points leader. He's in fact not the leader on the table. That is Danilo Di Luca, but as he's wearing the Maglia Rosa, the overall leader's jersey, it passes to the next person in line, who is Edvald Boasson-Hagen. Boasson-Hagen, big future ahead of him. I wonder where he will end up in the next few years in terms of teams and, of course, in terms of ability. I reckon if he sheds a few pounds, he might well turn himself into more of a Grand Tour rider as well, an overall rider. And Looks like he's got Mick Rogers just behind him as well. And I think the rider behind Rogers is Kasiakov, the Swedish mountain biker, who's gone to the Fuji Soveto team and is a pretty interesting character, Sean. Kasiakov, he's been climbing very well, although I think he's suffering as the period goes on. He might find himself failing a little bit towards the third week. He's simply not used to Grand Tours, but a man who has come back from some terrible crashes and some terrible injuries to win a World Cup event, and now seems to be making the transition to the road.
Yes, well, certainly he's performed very well in the past week of this race, and you know, yesterday he wasn't that far off. He was, you know, up there, and he finished at what, 1:39 down on stage under Di Luca yesterday in 26th position. So certainly, you know, a good performance yesterday. The problem will be, you know, to continue on this, but a big 3-week tour is going to be always difficult for him to, you know, to be able to perform right through for the 3 weeks. Yeah,
it's never an easy task to just move straight over. Filippo Simeoni then has had a mechanical problem, and God, it's been a disastrous Giro so far, considering it's such a huge budget team based in Italy for Katusha. I mean, I don't know what you think, Sean, but I just think it's been so far nada, nothing at all for them.
No, certainly it's, you know, not been a good start to the Tour of Italy. The first half not great, and for Pozzato yesterday as well, we heard over Race Radar he had a problem on the Ascent once again here today, and you know, at the moment he's getting these problems. You know, it just puts him totally out of contention. And this one today, for example, in the final, you know, he could be a danger man, because we've seen him before do it against the sprinters. You know, pull a stage victory off. If he gets one moment and he can take the sprinters by surprise, there's a little bit of a hesitation before the sprint starts, he can go for it, and he's certainly, you know, a great finisher over the last 600 metres, 1 kilometre, but he's certainly out of the situation here now. To get back, it's going to be impossible.
Yep. Best man for Katusha so far pretty much has to be Ben Swift, I would say. He's been in a couple of breaks, he's been up there in the sprints, and the British rider, well, I mean, if he gets himself up here today, he's clearly got some legs, although he's a little bit off the pace in the Milan sprint. But you never know, could be one for him. And could he stick one over on fellow countryman Mark Cavendish? Who knows?
Well, yes, certainly you know, he's going to be trying here again, and if you're up there on the sprints, which Swift have been, and you know, you're always going to try to stay up there, and hopefully you just get a good run. And sometimes, like, it's so important if you're just in the right place at the right moment. One of the sprinters start the sprint a bit early, and you're in the wheel and you follow through, and you can, you know, just get a victory like that. And that's what you're hoping for, as maybe, you know, not one of the top sprinters, and they're all going to try. Any of the sprinters who, you know, feel that they can go for a stage victory, get a place here, they're going to give it everything, because it's one of the last days as well. This race, of course, there's so little number of days for the sprinters. For that, you have to try every occasion.
Well, we'll have to look for a Katusha jersey. We haven't seen one yet, but then we are concentrating on the front. Di Luca having a little word with Lance Armstrong. It's all slowing down a little bit now as they all come back together at the bottom of this descent of the Ticino. Can we see... is that Cancellara, or is that Vogt having a go? Oh, it's Fabian Cancellara now pulling it along. Cancellara is a man who knows a thing or two about putting the hammer down. Matt Goss in better shape than most other sprinters, although I haven't seen him here at the front yet. Still time for these guys to get back together, and now it's being pushed on by Lamprey. Well, they're determined not to let things go completely and just slow it right up. Everybody looking at each other. Now it looks like Julian Dean, who's come through, is it, for Garmin?
Miller?
Is it Miller? It might have been Miller, actually. Yes, it might well have been Miller. It's the swarthy, unshaven look that catches me out. The two of them can look a little bit similar, although the pedaling style of, well, if this will be looking at the face, the pedaling style of David Miller, a tad more elegant, probably, one would say. No, this is a big dig now coming up the road from Jaroslav Popovic. Now he knows a thing or two about attacking in these sort of situations. He's done this before in the Tour de France. That's a big dig. That's a serious attempt at getting away. And who's he going to take with him? It looks like... I'm just trying to work out who it is, actually, from Lampre he's taking with him. Is it Gavazzi? Well, the two men trying to get away anyway, but Popovic is the man who's put the hammer down. And other teams not wanting that to happen. I think that one's going to be brought back. No, it's Gasparotto. Should have guessed, really, shouldn't I? Had a fantastic early season, Enrico Gasparotto, former national champion. And Popovic would have liked to have seen him with him a little bit harder, maybe. I don't think they're going to get away in a million years, Sean, do you?
No, major difficulty here to get away, because there's a number of riders here who just want to keep the thing rolling very fast on the front of the bunch, and we see they're about 7 kilometers to finish, a long ways out, and there's certainly more teams will take it up as we get closer to the finish, because we have still quite a big, a very big bunch of riders, so there's certainly a lot of teams in there with the intention of controlling this one and taking it down to a bunch sprint.
Yep, that's what they want. Cancellara second in line there. Trying to keep the pace high enough, but difficult to see where the sprinters are here, Sean. They're back a little bit at the moment. There's other riders doing the job of keeping the pace high. There is a... Dear, oh dear. Not just a mechanical then. That Filippo Pozzato has had a bit of a tumble as well. Now, was that there when we just looked at it?
Yes.
So I think it's more than just a mechanical for Pozzato. Some big digs coming in. Now Faulkner trying to get away in this little group here with I think it's Emanuele Mori who's pushing ahead. Or is it Tirolongo? Very difficult to tell, sorry. I didn't quite catch the Lampre rider at the front at the moment, but they're all little digs, one dig after another, and nothing really going off the front at the moment. If you're sure that somebody is going to try and make one stick, though, sooner or later, Sean, aren't they?
Yes, well, if, certainly, 5 kilometers to go, but, it's a difficult terrain as well. It's a little bit up and down here. To get out of the bunch here when there's a big control on, it's going to be, I think, impossible.
Running along the coastline then towards Aranzano. Westwards, they've come over the Ticino, past Passa di Ticino, and then down the other side, then swung westwards along the coastline now. This is Milan-San Remo territory. And LPR keeping the pressure on at the front with Garmin and also Quickstep. Alan Davis wanting to do something. I haven't seen Alessandro Petacchi yet, but you can guess he's going to be here because they're all going to be back together. Katusha, well, they were desperate to try and shut the early breakaway down because they haven't succeeded in anything yet. Maybe it's because they were in the early break. There were two other Italian teams, ISD and Acqua Sapone. Looks like Daniel Lloyd at the back there, number 68 for Cervelo. And Filippo Pozzato, all he can do is get home in his own sweet time at the moment. He's not really bothering to chase on whatsoever. Really strung out then. Now it's Columbia High Road who've come to the front. Still sandwiched in the middle is one LPR rider for Alessandro Petacchi, but are we going to end up with a massive bunch sprint here, Sean?
Yes, certainly. When you see the sprinters teams taking it up, Columbia here just going to control it, not allow anybody to steal a march here in the last number of kilometres. It certainly, looks like certainly bunch sprint here.
Yep, almost definitely. We're within inside the last 5 kilometres then, and Columbia High Road are keeping the pressure high on the front. LPR just looking behind. Lukvist lying third at the moment. And now other teams trying to make their way towards the front. ISD going for trying to get away now and steal a march on the rest of the peloton. While they're all concentrating on the sprint, it's IST who are trying to get away and take their first stage victory here. And how much of a gap is he going to get before he gets dragged back by Columbia High Road? Well, virtually nothing, as Liquigas does the shutting down.
Grifko.
Once again, and they're just capable of sitting in there and doing it, just waiting now. Really very difficult to tell. Sorry, we keep getting half the peloton and then not seeing the other half of it. There's the Ciclamino jersey of Edvald Boasson-Hagen. The pace just slackened off a little bit. Who's going to take up the pressure here? Who's going to start making inroads once again? And an attack coming out for AG2R. Well, knocked me down with a feather. The French team deciding to have a go now. Well, he's got a little bit. Well, why is he sitting up? Come on, get your head down, boy.
He's surprised he's got away.
I think he is. I think he is surprised he's got away, actually. 2 kilometers. Perhaps he's saying, my God, could I possibly be in a situation to win something? Now, Enrico Gasparotto once again launching himself off the front. And Gasparotto is a danger. They'll have to shut him down very quickly. He's in super fine form. This man from Lampe, you could see the bands around the end of his jersey sleeves as a former national champion. Didn't have a good year after that, but he certainly had a very good year this time around. Jens Vogt, is it with him? Now they're all having a go at it. That looks like Ermati. Riccardo Ermati always rides with his elbows sticking out. And is he just trying to shut the gap, or have they just said, we'll go across and be there anyway at the moment? Oh, poor old Pipo. Not a good year for him. Are we going to work to stay away? Well, you're going to have to do all the work, says everybody else. Gasparotto refusing to do any more. There's 4 here. They've got to work together with 1,100 meters to been particularly scrappy. Where is Mark Cavendish? We can see Renshaw has got Cavendish. By him. Here we go. Cavendish lying 1, 2, 3 back here. Tyler Farrar gets into his wheel. For once, he's in a good position. Don't blow it, Tyler. Alan Davis, head down. Hunched, he's in the wheel of, he's got the wheel of Mark Cavendish at the moment. And Farrar's moving up on the alongside of him. He's got the measure of Davis this time. Farrar's in the wheel of Cavendish. That's the way to go. Cavendish goes for the line. He's got the measure of everybody there. Can Farrar come around him? It's Cavendish from a long way out. Another sprint win for the Manxman, with Tyler Farrar taking 2nd place. Well, it looked pretty scrappy towards the end, but a fantastic piece of work by Mark Renshaw and the team, getting him in exactly the right place. And he's very, very happy about that one, because it just wasn't a good run in. Everybody was all over the place. Boasson-Hagen congratulating him. Another win for Columbia High Road, another win for Mark Cavendish. And Tyler Farrar looking as though he's beginning to position himself a bit better.
Yes, well, certainly he had a good position there. You know, he was in the right position and at the right time without making too much of an effort. But, you know, it was never going to cause any problem to Cavendish. Just in the wheel there, and when Cavendish go once again, it's just amazing, like the power he has, that explosive burst that 180 metres, 150 metres ago, and it never looked like there anybody going to come around him. But certainly, you know, Farrar, you know, a good sprint today. And as we talked about earlier, maybe just a learning process, certainly, you know, getting a little bit better.
Here we are, let's see it from overhead. Look, just sweeping in around our 4 potential breakaway guys. Well, it was Garmin Slipstream who did most of it. Look at the way Tyler Farrar works his way up to the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Then he cedes that place to Alan Davis. Alan Davis getting in there at the moment. The rider who's sprinting out with them both at the moment is Alessandro Petacchi, of course. Petacchi trying to get in the wheel of Davis. Farah moves up on the right-hand side of Davis and gets the jump on him. Now, look, he sees Mark Cavendish and he goes at him. But he wasn't going to come around him, but he's holding him, matching him for pace. He's getting a little closer to him, but still not fast enough. Tyler Farah, pretty good sprinting today, but a wonderful piece of finishing by Mark Cavendish. Third intermediate checkpoint is what we're really interested in now. That's going to be the guide, the form guide to where people are going to go. Let's run down how it has been at the moment. Remember, the third intermediate checkpoint is at 44.5 kilometers. Garzelli, 1:14.57. Brakovic, 1:15.34, 37 seconds down. Posisio, 1:15.46. We've already seen him slip. Bradley Wiggins, 1:15.50. Scarponi, 1:15.58. Serpa, 1:15.59. This is Ivan Basso. Well, he's giving it everything. There's no doubt about that. He's got this hunched shoulder style. He seems to lift his shoulders up and dig his neck back into his shoulders. But that is the way he rides when he's absolutely flat out. And it seems to be like that today for Ivan Basso. I don't think he's back in the big swing of things at the moment. Menchov on the left-hand side. Di Luca on the right-hand side. Di Luca starting the day with 1 minute and 20 seconds in hand over Denis Menchov. Is he going to be able to hang on to it, Sean? This is the big thing. Will he be that disappointed if somebody else has to take the responsibility of the pink jersey for a little while, as long as he's within touch?
Well, I think if he's in touch, certainly it's always nice. But to hold on to the jersey, I think that would be a very important thing for Di Luca to do here. But again, if he loses it and not by a huge margin, I think he would still be a danger man because he's very aggressive and he certainly won't give in if he loses the pink jersey today and he's there at maybe 40 or 50 seconds in the general. We will see him going in the attack at any occasion. But of course, the most difficult has to come for Di Luca, and I think the aim is today to try and limit your losses to the big climbers and the big general classement men.
These are some of the big general classement men. On the top left, Levi Leipheimer. On the top right, Carlos Sastre. Bottom left, Denis Menchov. Bottom right, Danilo Di Luca, really digging in, but looking like he's beginning to breathe heavily. This is Menchov, looking by far the most aggressive man other than Di Luca out on the road at the moment. Di Luca always looking aggressive, I have to say. And just wiping the sweat from his eyes, Danilo Di Luca. It shows he's putting maximum effort into this. It's a humid, hot day for these riders out here, and they're in skin suits as well, which doesn't help. Who is Pellizotti working his way through the crowd? Well, Franco, who was going so well earlier, he's just tapping away at the moment as we've seen him on the mountains, but I'm not sure he's looking as smooth as he was. Pellizotti was having some good times turning in. This is Sastre now coming up towards the third intermediate checkpoint, trying desperately to hang on in there. Well, let's get him through and see what happens. Sastre is will have to stay within the top 10 if he's going to do anything at all. Now beginning to look a little more comfortable again than he was earlier. Definitely looked as though he was having a more difficult time. He's not a natural time trialist, but then again, this isn't a natural time trialist course. It's what David Duffield would call slightly conky. It's going to be it's anybody's game at the moment, isn't it? We could put a half a dozen names in the hat at the moment, Sean, and to see who might come out on top here.
Yes, well, certainly you could still do that, and advantage, I suppose, is when you see the riders like Menchov you know, putting in good performances through the intermediate earlier checkpoints, and that is always, you know, quite good, because the morale, you know, you get a morale boost when you start getting those time checks, and then you can really push on in the end. And even, you know, if you are tiring, as I said, on a difficult route like this, you still can just go so deep, and you can, you know, really get the best out and get 100% out of yourself on the day.
58 seconds down for Carlos Sastre. That is a good time at the third intermediate, fifth fastest. Jaroslav Popovic finishing his caught and passed just about his 3-minute man, Kevin Sildriers, who you could see in the background. That's not about time for Sildriers either. He wouldn't want to be called a time trialist. In fact, he didn't even have any little stubby bars on. Here's big Marzio Bruzigin. Not featured much, but turning in a good last quarter here and using his brute strength and power. He's not going to take another victory in a time trial, but third overall in the Giro d'Italia last year, not matching that performance this year. But Bruzigin, a big, powerful man, and as long as he can get up and over the hills, he's always got a chance to pull things back in a time trial. Wiggins is the third fastest time. He's aiming at that at the moment. 1:36.26 is going to slip outside of it. Mosisio, the next man, is going to go behind that as well. Serpa, and behind that. Not his day today then, Sean, Marzio Bruzigin. Not really his Giro so far. Well, certainly in terms of the performance he turned in last year.
No, certainly not, and we've seen that in the first week. You know, he was suffering on the difficult finishes, the mountaintop finishes, losing a little bit of time every day, and certainly today not a great performance, but the route here is, you know, majorly difficult for him. And he was reading there this morning in one of the papers, he said it's not really a time trial at all. He said, I don't know what you could call it, because it's so difficult and so technical, he said. And I think, you know, he certainly have suffered big time today. Another one who would, you know, if it was a real time trialist course, well, I think then we would see him putting in a much better time, but he's paid the price because of this parkour being so the difficult part. I think the climbing in as well, that's where he's really paid the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking the papers, what has been in the papers today, Sean? Other than Pataki wanting to go to Lotto.
Well, of course, the talk about Horner, we mentioned yesterday, he's you know, out of the race, and he's been told to stay off the bike for 1 week with his injury. He's returned to the States to rest up a bit, and you know, certainly he's going to be missed in the team because he was riding so well. And I think, you know, further in this race, depending on how Leipheimer perform, he could be majorly missed in the big mountain stages.
Third intermediate checkpoint, Pellizotti, second fastest. Well, we shouldn't dismiss Franco Pellizotti from time trials. Remember the mountain time trial at Kronplatz last year. He took the honours, so there we go. Levi Leipheimer. First, this is a wonderful, look at this, look at this, look at this. Around the third intermediate checkpoint time, he's just knocked a whacking 30 seconds out of the best time of Stefano Garzelli at this point. Remember, still got Dennis Menchov to come. This is getting really tight at the top, Sean. Very, very tight indeed.
Yes, well, certainly I think you know, the big hitters are really, you know, starting to up their game, and it looks like that, you know, in the final, 50% they're putting on, you know, really pushing up the pressure here, and I think, you know, you have to calculate in that way, because if you really go out a bit too fast, you can pay the price, and it's better just, you know, to keep a little bit in reserve and really give it everything in the last 50%, and it looks the case with a number of the riders and a number of the favourites.
Menchov, well, he was looking super aggressive. Now maybe not looking quite so comfortable, just tapping out the rhythm, but his head's beginning to look down at his front wheels. Never a good sign with Dennis. When we see a shot around the front of him, if we ever do, and you only get that from a static camera, because the motorbike cameras are not allowed to go around the side or the front of the time trialist. They have to stay within a certain point. You might just get to see it now. Has he got his tongue out yet? Has he got his mouth gaping open, looking like some demented owl? No, not yet. Yes, camera bikes cannot go around the front of time trialists because it's deemed to be possible that they could get a slipstreaming aid from it, so they don't. They're not allowed to do it. And you may notice they only wear one number in time trialing, square in the centre instead of the two that are obligatory for road racing, one on either side. This is Leipheimer. Is that rain?
Yes, it just looks like a couple of drops, and we can see a little bit darker out there. And certainly, if the last rider's out on the parcours here gets a little bit of a wet road, it will be just, you know, treacherous here, and you're going to lose so much time because you cannot go at any speed on the route like this if the road is anyway damp at all.
And you can see why, can't you? Twisting and turning, and even the motorcycle falling back off the rear of Levi Leipheimer. It's okay down at the finish, it's just up over the top of the hills there. Remember the course starting today at Sestri Levanti, rising up and up and up until the first intermediate checkpoint at Passo del Braccio. Then flattening off just a little bit, and then a fast run downhill to Levanto, which is where the second intermediate checkpoint is. Then a rise up to the Passo del Termine, which is at 44.5 kilometers. A nasty, nasty climb that, and that's where we're watching this man now. And then slight sort of false flat over San Bernardino, and then down to the finish at Rio Maggiore. This is known as the Cinque Terre course, and Menchov having to dig in hard. He knows he's got a real problem with Leipheimer up ahead now. Leipheimer has just knocked 30 seconds out of Stefano Garzelli's best time in the third intermediate checkpoint. Leipheimer goes through in 1:14.27. Garzelli 1:14.57. Franco Pellizotti 1:15.29. So Leipheimer, he said he was waiting for this day to launch his bid on the Giro d'Italia. He's got two men behind him. Well, he's also got Rogers behind him, but we've not even seen Rogers because Rogers has had a dreadful day today, losing a great wallops of time, and he's going to slip down the overall leaderboard. There's no doubt about that, unless you can pull something spectacular out of the bag towards the end. Well, again, we saw him actually having a little bit of a rougher day 2 days ago on the final climb of the day, losing touching, having to fight hard to get back on, but so did Levi Leipheimer, and doesn't seem to be affecting him today. Menchov looks as though he's in reasonable shape here at the moment, Sean.
Yes, certainly. I think he's doing a very good ride here. There was a moment ago, as you mentioned, it looked like he was starting to suffer, but I think that section, was a steeper section, and again, it's just, it's deceiving when you see them on that part of the parcours. But I think, yes, Menchov is really digging in here. It's really interesting to see as he comes through the time check now to what his performance will be against Leipheimer. Yep,
this is Filippo Simeoni coming into finish. Started the day in 10th spot overall, 2:58 back on Danilo Di Luca. We'll see how he goes across the line. 10th, or bang on form then for Gilberto Simeoni. Always consistent, like him as a rider. Well, this is the telling point. Coming up to the third intermediate checkpoint for Menchov. The time he's aiming at is Leipheimer's 1:14.27. He's going to go way inside that, I think. Oh, 34 seconds he's knocked out of Levi Leipheimer. That's a blow for the American, and even though the American is ahead of him on the road, Sean, he will be getting that feedback in the team car.
Yes, certainly, and I think we can see it here, the effort he's putting in. He knows he's on a good time, and he's been, well informed, and you can see the way he's just giving it everything here, and that's what you've got to do. And certainly on the climbs, that's where you really have to, dig deep and give it everything, and he's going to continue on doing that now because he knows he's, in a very good position here, the best time out on the road so far, and he's going to try and build on that.
So the fastest times then are Denis Menchov, 30 seconds ahead of Levi Leipheimer, Garzelli third, Pellizotti fourth, Brakovic fifth, Bosisio sixth, Bradley Wiggins seventh, Sastre eighth, Armstrong 11th, Basso 12th. This is at the third intermediate checkpoint, by the way. 34 seconds the gap. They've stopped showing this man here, and Leipheimer, and they started showing Menchov and Leipheimer. Di Luca is just going to have to do whatever he can. Last man on the road, he gets all the advantage of everybody's time checks. We'll have to see how he descends now. 15 kilometers to the finish. We saw Leipheimer going down well. He is a good descender, Leipheimer. 30 seconds is not that much to lose, or if you're going downhill pretty quick. Not inconceivable that if you're descending super fast, you can gain 10, 12, 15 seconds, Sean, or even that short run.
Yes, well, certainly, and if you're, a good descender, and Menchov, of course, I think, he takes the descent with a bit more caution than Leipheimer. But again, in a time trial here, when you're on the limit, on the rivet, as they say in cycling terms, everybody is suffering at this point. So you're a little bit tired here, and that's the time you have to take a little bit more of a caution, because you can, you just overcook it on a corner. So I think everybody at this point, will be just taking a little bit more caution. You're not really going to go crazy on the descent, because one mistake and you can lose so much if you go off the road. As we can see, Di Luca here not happy with one of the supporters.
Just about to say, caution is something that the Tifosi are not having there. Now they should get out the way, really. He's got enough to concentrate on with that, and this fan is not a fan, really, is he? Look, here we go. Where he lost his hat, and Di Luca lost his cool, and unsurprisingly. It always happens though, Sean, doesn't it? At least there's no more to come over the top there.
Yes, well, we see it, so often in the mountain stages, and Di Luca there, I think the best thing to do is just continue on, and just don't take any notice whatsoever, and continue at their job. But if you're a little bit suffering, and maybe Di Luca knows that he's not on the best today, really suffering big time, and you can lose it a bit, but certainly you just keep on working on it is the best thing to do. And in a time trial, that's what it's all about. Every little bit helps, every second counts, and just concentrate, and concentrate on the job out ahead. And if you have no major obstruction, what he hadn't got there from the supporter, just continue on working, and don't get that concentration broken at all.
Yep, concentration it's all about. That guy on the corner with his camera stuck out is lucky he hasn't got clobbered on the way around at the moment. I saw him so close to Menchov. Let's see what happens here with the Tifosi. Menchov's time, the third intermediate checkpoint, 1:13.53. 34 seconds back to Levi Leipheimer. And then Garzelli at 1:04. Pellizotti at 1:36. Pellizotti, well, he's changed his helmet. That one's even more dangerous, surely. Now it looks like Pellizotti to me, Sean, must be able to, and I've been advocating this for a while, he must be able to at least exert some authority within the Liquigas team, because at the third intermediate checkpoint, Pellizotti 1:36 back on Menchov, Basso 2:17 back. Basso starting the day at 7th overall, with Pellizotti ahead of him at 5th. Surely now they must make a choice between one leader and another.
Well, certainly, I think when we come to the very decisive moments, if there's something to be done, if there's somebody to ride in the front, it looks like it will be Basso. But again, Basso is still, he's still in there, and I think in the big mountain stages they can use, the double card, and maybe Basso is the one who will go in the attack a bit early on some of these big mountain stages to put, the likes of Di Luca or Menchov, whoever is the case, under pressure and make them do the chasing. And I think it's a great position for the Liquigas team to be in, because both of them are still in there, in a danger position for who's going to be leader as we go into the final week.
Look at this, 1:46 is the gap between Denis Menchov and Danilo Di Luca. If you were to have a podium right this second, it would be Denis Menchov in the pink jersey now, as Di Luca loses 26 seconds to him. American Levi Leipheimer has come into this race in super form. We saw him overall winner in the Tour of California, in Giro as well. But it looks as though he's beginning to suffer, to be honest to me. He's giving it absolutely everything. But that face is a mask of pain. On the left-hand side is Denis Menchov. On the right-hand side is Danilo Di Luca. At the same point on the course is what they're showing. Di Luca, much higher cadence. Menchov, not a high cadence rider. Di Luca just tends to spin the pedals and attack it. Well, 146 is a substantial, it's a substantial gap for Menchov to make up already. But it means that Di Luca is within striking distance still, even if, as Sean was saying, Menchov takes the pink jersey today, or anybody else takes the pink jersey. Di Luca is still in with a good fighting chance, and his powers of recovery are excellent. Here is Thomas Lundqvist, best young rider. Lundqvist not really featuring an awful lot in the 28th fastest. 4 minutes and 46 seconds down at the third intermediate checkpoint. Just trying to see who in the young riders classification might have finished ahead of him. I'm not sure anybody has, actually. Here comes Thomas Lundqvist. And a good finish from the man who won the Eroica. Wearing the white, all white, of best young rider in this year's Giro d'Italia. That's graced a large number of riders in their day. 21st fastest. Here comes Ivan Basso. Well, Basso, who started 3 minutes behind Thomas Lundqvist, has almost caught him, but let's see what the finish is. 7th fastest, 1:14 down on Garzelli at the moment. Well, he's put up a brave fight, certainly in the last half of this time trial, Sean, and I think he's picked up a little bit of time in the last quarter.
Yes, well, certainly, 1:14. It's not a disastrous day whatsoever. Again, he's hung on very well in there, and it was just interesting to see what he will lose on the the ones out on the road, Leipheimer and Menchov, of course. But certainly, he's still going to be a danger man, and I think for Basso, this one was always, a very, very going to be difficult for him coming back from a long time out of competition. It's always difficult in time trialing, and such a difficult one today. Really, a test. And I would say he would be majorly concerned. He did talk about it a lot in his interviews, and I think although he's lost quite a lot and going to lose, quite a substantial amount of time on the big favourites, I think he'll be happy with the day.
Yeah, I think he will. 1:14 down, 7th fastest. Garzelli still is the leader. And he's hung on grimly in there. Brakovic, 2nd fastest, is still at the moment, 11 seconds. Let's look at the descending styles of Menchov and Di Luca. Menchov coasting a lot further out. Here comes Carlos Sastre. Great finish by Jose Serpa, by the way, 6th fastest at the moment. He's got Pasisio ahead of him, another great finish. Wiggins in 3rd, with Brakovic in 2nd, Garzelli in 1st. Some of the big names really coming in now. Lance Armstrong, 8th fastest to the finish, 1:23 down on Garzelli. Basso, 7th fastest, 1:14 down. Remember, the 2 riders returning to big tour riding. For vastly different reasons. Here comes the Tour de France winner from last year, Carlos Sastre. This is a great finish by Carlos Sastre, because he's not a natural time trialist. I think he was suffering in the middle of this. The only man to have opted for this sort of hybrid time trial come road bike situation. Well, this is a very, very, very good finish, Sean. Look at it, he's tilting it to Bradley Wiggins here.
Yes, it's a very good performance, and Sastre, the time trialing, except for last year, he put in a great time trial. Always, a little bit off the pace of the big favourites for the general classement, and today, of course, this route has suited him that little bit better, and certainly, he's putting in a very good performance here, and again, hanging in there very well, and still, very much a danger man for the general classement.
Let's see, does he get inside Sastre? No, he doesn't. 8th fastest time for Carlos Sastre, just 1 second slower than than Ivan Basso, but faster than Lance Armstrong.
Yes, certainly faster than Lance, but again, you know, Lance's performance, I think it's a very good performance considering you know, where he's come from. But Sastre, you know, if you look back over the years, I think that performance is, you know, in his position, and definitely I think he will be happy with that today, because I don't think he's at 100%, but not that far off.
Here's another very important time coming up. This is the time of Franco Pellizotti, who's just about to arrive. He's within striking distance of the line now. Pellizotti could improve his time could improve his place from 5th overall. Rogers is going to slip back. Di Luca, well, he might slip back, but still stay above Pellizotti. It's about who's going to still be in the top 10. Lundqvist is going to slip out of the top 10 today, as is David Arroyo. Filippo Simeoni at the moment in 10th spot. Lance is going to move up, but is he going to move up far enough to get into the top 10? Franco Pellizotti giving it everything. He's ridden in support of Danilo Di Luca a couple of years ago, and for me was the best rider in the race. Just super smooth and doing so much work for Di Luca. Got his chance last year to try and be the team leader. Didn't quite come off for him, but he's still got the ability. The time he was going for is Stefano Garzelli's. He's not going to make that one, but how close to the top 3 is he going to be? Brakovic at 35.43. It's going to be outside of that one as well, but still pushing hard. Franco Pellizotti. There is the finish line. He's going to be inside Bradley Wiggins' time. 3rd fastest it's going to be for Franco Pellizotti. 35.56. That is super close. Franco Pellizotti finishes with a handful of seconds behind the fastest man of the day, Garzelli, just 24 seconds down. Brakovic in the middle, and then Wiggins at 56, Bosisio at 101. And that's a terrific ride, Sean.
Certainly, again, you know, the time trials for Pellizotti would be always, you know, the biggest concern, and that performance, I think he would be majorly happy with that. And you know, thanks again to the route here, because it certainly suited him, and he's, I suppose, he's the one who's pulled the advantage because of the route today being such a difficult one.
Do you think it's a good idea to have such a difficult route? I mean, it's very hard time trial, but it keeps the race wide open, doesn't it?
Yes, definitely. I think it keeps big interest in the race, because it gives a little bit of a balance, and certainly that is the case today. You know, the non-time trialist specialists there, you know, a lot of them are going to be still in here with a very good chance, and if you had a flat 60-kilometre time trial, well, then you would eliminate a lot of those guys, because they would lose 2.5 or 3 minutes extra, and this situation, you know, they're going to be in there. They're going to be still fighting for a place in the top 5, place on the podium, and maybe even the end win at the end of this race. So it certainly, you know, keeps the interest very, very high in the race.
Well, here's a man who could, one of the first men who could deprive Stefano Garzelli realistically of the top place on the podium today. Levi Leipheimer, who I feel is beginning to suffer a little bit. Maybe his form came a weeny bit too early, who knows? I may be completely wrong, but this is the final line coming up now. He's going to take the fastest time, Levi Leipheimer, 1:34.49, 43 seconds inside Stefano Garzelli, and now has Dennis Menchov got enough in the legs to take it away from Levi Leipheimer? Leipheimer wanted this one badly, Sean, but it looks to me as though Menchov may well be able to pip him to it.
Yes, well, it looks like that Menchov will pip him to it, but again, you know, we see Menchov there a little bit earlier on. He was really, you know, suffering, but everybody is suffering in the last 15 kilometers this one, and we can see why, because it just, you know, kicks up a little bit of a drag for maybe 300, 400, 500 meters, and you know, when you're really going on the rivet, giving it 100% and giving that for, you know, all through this time trial, everybody is just, you know, in pain here, and I think Menchov should be able to, you know, hang on, because he had a sufficient advantage at the last time check, but you never know how Leipheimer finished. He could have, you know, finished extremely strong, but you know, it will be just an interesting one out to see what the time is for Menchov as he comes closer to the finish.
Yep, Garzelli with the second fastest time now, so it's Leipheimer 49 seconds ahead of Garzelli, then Brakovic, then Pellizotti, now down in 4th spot. But a terrific finish by Pellizotti. A great finish by Leipheimer. This has been some interesting, wonderful, wonderful time trial by Garzelli. Some other good performances. Gabriele Bossiccio, 5th spot now. Bradley Wiggins also. Terrific ride. Wiggins, far more of a standard time trial specialist. This is certainly not what you'd class as his normal time trial, and he's had a fantastic result with it, although he has been climbing brilliantly. Just 3 kilometers then for Denis Menchov. Will he take the stage today and the pink jersey? Do you know, I think he just might. Doesn't seem to be any lack of descending power here from Denis Menchov, although we've seen him before. He's not as quick down the hills as Levi Leipheimer.
Not as smooth, sorry, David, because we just see that on the last corner he went, you know, a little bit, left it run on a bit too far and had to brake very, very heavily, and you know, just to build up the speed again, you always lose that second or two in a situation like that, where Leipheimer is much more smoother. He just kind of, he floats around the corners much better, and certainly, you know, you don't have to check your speed, lose your speed as much, and that's very important, because at this point to build it up, you know, the body is very tired, and it's just impossible really to take back what you lose in the corners.
Menchov just powering the gear out of the corner. See if he can take this one smoothly. He's yeah, you're right, Sean, he's not super smooth. He's not confident with the bike underneath him. The lines are slightly more clipped than everybody else's. He goes in a little bit narrower than other riders and comes out a bit narrower, rather than just letting the bike flow in and out again. And his braking points, as you say, a little bit more suspect. This is Danilo Di Luca. Leipheimer with the fastest time at the finish so far, 1:34.49. Garzelli, 1:35.32. It's 43 seconds down. Then Brakovic at 54 seconds. Franco Pellizotti at 1:07. Then Wiggins in 5th spot at 1:39. One of the rides of the day for me, Sean, Bradley Wiggins, because this is not a Brad Wiggins course.
Yes, well, certainly is, you know, a fabulous ride. It's certainly a long, long ways off of a Wiggins course here, and he just put in a magnificent performance, and just the form is so good. We've seen that, and we've talked about it so much. Climbing so well, it was just a major surprise to see him in some of the big climbs there. 20 riders left and still following, and I think he's, you know, just confirmed that today once again.
Big losers today, Michael Rogers. Michael Rogers, who's finished way, way, way outside of the time that he needed to hang on in there. In fact, he doesn't even feature in the top 15 at the moment. Remember, Leipheimer finishing. Rogers has still got to come in, and Menchov started 3 minutes behind Rogers, and we haven't seen him caught yet, Rogers, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're not too close to each other on the line, to be honest, because he was just having a bit of a mare of a day, was Rogers. And there he is. Look, there is Michael Rogers. And where is Denis Menchov? Oh, that's painful. That is painful. Coming up to 500 meters to go. So he's not going to be caught by Menchov, I shouldn't think. But not far off. There is Denis. Whoa. Nearly. How close are they going to be on the line? Remember, Michael Rogers started with 3 minutes on Denis Menchov. A terrible day for the Australian. It's the day when it's all come home here for him. He really wanted to do well today. In fact, I think he's done well to limit himself to this particular place at the moment. He went over the first intermediate time check, about 11th. So at the moment, he's doing well to just stay where he is. Here comes Michael Rogers to finish, looking for all the world as though he's absolutely spent. And here is Denis Menchov. Denis Menchov comes in 20 seconds to the good of Levi Leipheimer and takes the stage win today, and in the process will take the pink jersey. Menchov wins today. Leipheimer at 20 seconds. 1 minute and 3 seconds back to Stefano Garzelli. because as much as Danilo Di Luca is going to try and take as little much of a loss as possible, his descending is pretty good. But I think he's looking, even by his standards, a little bit tired here, descending. He's usually very flowing. He usually tips the bike over into the corners particularly well. He's giving everything he possibly can. But it's a case of how much is he going to lose to the big rivals today. Menchov, 134.29. Di Luca can try and make some time up on this descent if he can. He's better actually than Leipheimer and Menchov when it comes to going downhill, though Leipheimer is very smooth. Well, it just goes to show, Sean, doesn't it, that in the final analysis, you know, Menchov lost 20 seconds or so in that last section, just by descending. Well, it is at 20 seconds, and Leipheimer was 20 seconds back on Menchov, so he's pulled out another 20 seconds on him. He's only 40 seconds ahead of Leipheimer, but even so, he lost the third intermediate checkpoint. He was 49 seconds up, and now he lost another 29 seconds just by the fact that he's not quite as smooth downhill.
Yes, certainly we see that, and I think that's, you know, what we would have expected, but no, it is a lot, and it tells us like that Leipheimer still, you know, went down very, very well. Menchov, of course, did he give it, you know, a lot on that final climb before he started the descent, and if that is the case, you know, you suffer a little bit, but you know, it's not all about maybe your qualities descending as well as how you feel, how the body is, how much, you know, energy you've got left. That's also very important at this point of such a difficult time trial.
Di Luca then in the final kilometers of this time trial, still descending well, still getting everything. Ooh, look how much smoother he is. Very deep braking into that corner, but he's able to carry it through. He's a rider that carries corner speed really well. He's got the perfect ability to position himself on the back. Can you see the way he shifts his weight? Lifts himself off the saddle, shifts his weight back a little bit, squeezes on the brakes, and then gradually releases them as he gets in, tips himself into the corner, releases as he gets towards the apex, and then starts to power out. All about shifting weight on the bike. He moves himself around a lot, doesn't he, on the bike, Sean?
Yes, he certainly does, and you know, that's his style. You know, a lot of movement, and you know, not the style of a time trialist. Menchov, of course, you know, sitting there and just powering away. We see some of the shots where he was, you know, just pushing a very big gear, and that is the better time trial position. But you know, Di Luca is just that style of very explosive rider, very attacking rider, and a classic style of rider, certainly more so than a tour rider.
Very much so. And of course, has been immensely successful in that sort of racing, but there aren't that many riders in the peloton. Well, if any, I'm trying to think of them at the moment, who have won classics. Of course, it has been Lance Armstrong has won a classic, but riders who've won classics and won Grand Tours, and that is probably only Di Luca in the modern peloton, because he won the Giro d'Italia and he's also won classics as well. So they either tend to be tour riders or classics riders, or just a general, you know, shorter stage race riders. But Danilo Di Luca capable of winning both in his career, where he's fighting very hard. I think he's done a superb job, actually, Sean, especially in the second half of this time trial. He's limited his losses very well indeed.
Well, certainly, you know, he was losing it right from the first time check, and when you're in a position like that, it can be, you know, difficult to keep the concentration, keep your morale up, and I think, you know, he's fought very well in this one, and certainly not going to be out of the picture whatsoever, which could be the case, but certainly, you know, Menchov has, you know, done the business today.
He's not going to start stage 13 in the pink jersey is Danilo Di Luca. But he's still going to be hanging in there with a spot over in the overall classification where he could challenge again, given the chance. He comes over sixth fastest. That's a great ride. 1:54 back. Remember, the gap to Menchov was 1:20. So Menchov only taking that pink jersey by 34 seconds. That's a terrific piece of loss limitation by Danilo Di Luca against a man who's looking as strong as Denis Menchov. Menchov gave it everything as well. I think a very good ride. He's definitely not out of this Giro d'Italia yet. Well, the LPR car pulling in. That is the end of everybody on the road. Big losers today, Sean. Michael Rogers finishing 13th fastest at 2 minutes and 46 seconds down on the winner today, Dennis Menchov. Armstrong, well, he's at 2:26, but he's done well. Sastre did reasonably well, 11th at 2:18. Basso loses out to his teammate Franco Pellizotti. Basso finishing at 2:17 down on Menchov. Pellizotti, great ride, 1:27 down. Yannick Brakovic, what a ride by him. He ends up, as you can see, 4th fastest at 1:14. Won't really, I don't think he'll be really challenging up to the top yet. He started the day at 31st with 12 minutes and 15 seconds down. Good ride by Jose Serpa, showing that he's a good all-rounder as well as a climber, finishing 9th overall. And Giovanni Visconti once again in the mix. 16th for Scarponi. Gilberto Simoni at 3 minutes. It's slipping away, I think, from Simoni just a bit.
Certainly is, because he's already quite a bit down. Simoni, he was at what, 2:58, and losing again. It's going to be difficult, and I don't think he's going to maybe do anything famous in the mountain stages. But you never know. The final week, it is his week, because he seemed to get better as the race go on. His recovery is quite good, but that is the question now with his age. Will that be still the case? We have to wait and see. But I think a stage victory and to go in the attack, that's certainly possible from Simoni. But a place in the podium, I think it's over.
Welcome back. There's live shots on stage 13. A lovely overhead shot with Columbia High Road, just keeping the pace sensible at the front. Brandegut from the Rabobank squad, just stuck in the middle there. And the Garmin Slipstream boys as well. They're trying to set it up for a sprint. Their sprinter, Tyler Farrar, really wanting to take a win. 1:45 from Björn Schröder, who's gone out by himself. He's dropped his two fellow escapees, Scarzelli and Ignatieff. So Björn Schröder having a go by himself. 1:45 is the gap between himself and the peloton at the moment. We were talking about, I can't remember who it was now. We had a questioner saying, what big climb shall I go for in the UK? And we said, try going abroad, because there are some very stiff, very tough climbs in the UK. A lot of them very steep. But if you really want to see what big climbs are like, go to the Pyrenees or the Alps, or as we said, Sierra Nevada, if you want a real long grind. Well, we just knew this would happen, wouldn't we? We could have talked about Cameron Highlands or Genting Highlands in Langkawi or in Malaysia, but somebody's written in, it's Mike from Southend Wheelers, saying, if you want a real long mountain climb, go to Ladakh in northwest India. Last year we climbed the Taglangla Pass, 40 kilometers long, went to over 5,300 meters high. And he qualifies that by saying, now that is very long and very high. Björn Schröder out by himself now. This man who sort of started off really as a cyclocrosser many years ago, and he takes one decent stage or two every year, generally within Germany, but he has taken others. He won a stage in the Circuit de Mines about 6 or 7 years ago now, but a good all-round rider, and has made his career, Sean, as a good domestique. He's always there, he's always helping people, and they stick him in breaks at the same time. He's a very good all-rounder.
Yes, and of course the good all-rounders, they're domestique, and when the occasion is needed, they have to do that work, and depending on who's in the race, what race they're in, of course, they get the domestique role, and we do not see him out front. But if you look at Milram here, for example, they haven't anybody really for the general classement, so there's no controlling to be done. For the sprints they do that a little bit, but they have other riders back, and you just get put up the road, and that is the case today for Schröder, and try and succeed in a breakaway. But again, it's not going to work out for him today, and it's just amazing when you look at the time that the guys are down here. But I suppose maybe the last day for a lot of sprinters in the race, so they're certainly not going to slip up on this one, and it's been the case. The control has been on for most of the day here, not to allow a breakaway to steal the march.
Well, he hasn't won a stage in a race so far this year. He did win the general classification in the Regio Tour last year. So that's probably one of his better wins over his career. He's been a professional now since Since about the year 2000, I think. Before that, he was an under-23 rider. 28 now. And he's shaved his beard off, which is good to see. He did have a bit of a goatee going on. These are the two riders that Björn Schröder has left behind him. Mikhail Ignatiev and Leonardo Scarzelli, and they're just about to be gobbled up by the pack. At least it's not Oscar Gatto this time. Gatto gobbled up by the pack is one of the good ones from this year's Giro d'Italia. I think, like everybody who does commentary, we tend to come out with them now and again. And people on the internet and so on do pick them up and post them, but that was a good one. I like that one. I hadn't even realized I'd done it. Gatto gobbled up by the pack. Although my favorite one that I do remember doing was when Rabobank, when Dennis Menchov rode past a group of fans on the side of the road the day after Michael Rasmussen had been forced to withdraw from the Tour de France with the yellow jersey on his shoulders. And there were the fans at the side, and they said, "Oh, look, the fans are doing a Mexican wave." Not what you want to see when you're Dennis Menchov at the moment, but there we go. Goodbye to Leonardo Scarzelli and Mikhail Ignatiev then. They'll just hang on to the back of the peloton if they can. Still not going absolutely flat out, Sean. Not full bore, just a good pace.
Yes, certainly not full pace, but they have been going at a quite strong pace. A number of kilometres back there, we could see the bunch was stretched out a little bit more than it is at the moment. And I think there was a time there when we see the Columbia riders, they were really pushing it on, but certainly it slowed up a bit. And still that's outside 20 kilometres to go, and the gap coming down like to about a minute and a half at the moment. I think that is the reason they're just going to let them hang out there again. It's the same situation. If you close it down here, then you have the possibility of riders going the attack again. So it's just that situation, calculating it now and leave them hanging out there for the last number of kilometres, and then just go for it. And when they start taking it up, they just go all the way to the finish the sprinters teams.
There's a nice overhead shot of a slightly baffled heron that we saw just then. Whether it was grey or purple-headed heron, I don't know. There we go. This is the lead of the race, Björn Schröder. 28 years of age now, the Milram rider. As I say, he won the Reggio Tour overall last year. 20 kilometres to go. Remember that coverage continues after we finish on the Eurosport iPlayer. So go to the Eurosport site, website, and check out the iPlayer. We usually start early and finish later. He's doing a good job, Schröder, with just 20 kilometres to go. I know that the gap is going to come down, but he's plugging away quite nice. He's riding strongly.
Yes, well, he certainly is. He's very strong, and unfortunately, a big bunch, you have, no hope against a big bunch of riders breathing down your neck. When you're at that, minute and 15, it's just they close it down in a number of kilometres. Certainly in the final, when they really go, it's just amazing the way the bunch can, take a rider or a number of riders down, pull them back, because they just the advantage just melts down so quickly. It's unfair when you see what they have to do to build up that advantage out there. But that's the way in the calculation. They really get it worked well, and it's also they race so much together, and they know the strengths of the riders that are out front, so they calculate it really well, and 95% of the time it works out in favour of the peloton.
It's Michael Barry who's doing the pulling along now, and this will really come down quickly now as they go there. 1:29 is the gap. Barry is a bit of an engine, and you could already see behind that Tom Danielson was pushing, I think, Marco Pinotti back into the line, saying, come on, just giving him a little bit of a hand to get back in there. I don't think he was trying to get out of the line, Pinotti. I just simply think he couldn't keep up with it at the time. This man is a real engine, Michael Barry. And just about everybody says if you see Michael Barry get to the front and start to pull along, you know you're in for a hard ride. Well, here's a good example of a man who's been riding into form at a different level, of course, not the top level, but the best result that Björn Schröder's had in the Giro d'Italia so far this year is 82nd, and that was yesterday in that very difficult time trial. Before that, the next best stage he'd had was on stage 8, 97th. So he's obviously at a different level, Sean, to the top guys riding into form.
Well, the question is, was he really trying in the other stages? You know, the mountain stages, he knows that he's going to be 12 minutes down or 24 minutes down, and a lot of the riders say, well, if I'm not in the break in the earlier part, and, you know, depending on if they're trying, if they're able to try in the earlier part of the stage when there's a lot of attacking, if you don't make that move, well then, on a mountain stage, certainly you just sit back and get into the bus, as they call it, and, you know, to finish the stage. And also, if you're just, you know, coming into shape for some reason, you haven't been good, maybe through sickness, and you're just getting back into condition, well, that is certainly the way to do it, build up very gradually. So that is possibly the case with Schröder, but on the results it's difficult because you know, it's very, very hard to, you know, to really know if he was trying in the earlier stages. Maybe he was just sitting back there and waiting for his day to come, and after the time trial he could have, you know, he could have been looking at that. He said, well, those are the days to have a go when the classement is, you know, much more settled, and the possibility of a break succeeding.
Indeed. I see some Twitter entries for the Russ coming in for today. Paul Hillian wins today's stage, and another top 10 place for 18-year-old Sam Bennett, so he's really going well. So Paul Hillian, and now Hillian's a good rider. He rode with your squad for a year.
Yes, he's a very good rider, and you know, a very good track rider, and I think on the road we, you know, maybe haven't seen the best of his qualities that he's got, but certainly, you know, a talented rider. And Sam Bennett, you know, his first year under 23, one of the very talented juniors in Ireland, which we have at the moment. We have a couple of them there, and he's certainly put in a great Ross, because he's been up there in all the stages in the sprints, finishing in the top 8 or 10 riders every day. You know, for his first year at a senior level, it's a magnificent performance, and he's been coming a number of years. And as I said, he's one of the talent, the promising talents we have in Ireland.
Of course, you've got a big restructuring program and a big challenge on your hands, really, in Ireland. And Phil Lee, Britain's Phil Lee, has taken over as performance director for Cycling Ireland, but there's a lot of work to be done to bring on those talents. I mean, where do you get young talent from? How do you encourage it to come along?
Well, it's difficult because you know, it's to attract riders into the sport. It's difficult, and the numbers we have in the junior ranks in Ireland in the past number of years are tiny compared to in the mid-80s. But we have a number of very good juniors coming through, as I said, from last year to the senior ranks this year, and they're the ones we really have to concentrate on, because they're part of the way. And I think if you look after that, maybe we have about maybe 5 or 6 of them. If you look after them and give them a good program, which is important this year in the first year as senior, I think, you know, some of them could definitely go on. That is the first thing, but you always have to look further down the line, and I think that is, you know, the plan of Cycling Ireland, and that's what they've got to do, because they have to keep on bringing in young talent from the underage to the junior level, because you need that in the next couple of years to keep the sport alive.
I'm just wondering, 15 to go then for Björn Schröder. The last gap we had at 20 kilometres was 1:29. It'll be less than that now. I'm wondering, Sean, obviously that Ireland was very lucky to have a whole raft of very good professionals riders during the 1980s. Yourself, you know, obviously Stephen Roach, who's a regular now on Eurosport's studio panel. Martin Early, Paul Kimmage. You had a whole group of people coming through. That must have been inspiring to riders, but why didn't it pay off? I mean, you had to come through a club structure. You had to come through all the domestic races to make your name within Ireland. What happened? It wasn't just that it failed after you. There must have been something within the structure that failed.
Well, it was amazing in the mid-80s, the number of very talented riders we had coming through, and I was, you know, certain that we would see this, a number of them go on to be professionals and to get into professional teams, but unfortunately there was nobody who made it in the mid-80s, end of the 80s, and you know, then of course we all retired it was the end of our career, and it went downhill for a number of years, and the interest went very low. And of course we had the Nissan Classic, and we had the national TV were covering the Tour of France, the classic races, and the interest got lost there for quite a while, and I think we paid the price dearly, and we're still paying the price up to the last number of years, because the number of young riders coming through has been very, very little. And in the past 3 or 4 years they have been working on it a lot with the Sports Council of Ireland, and I think the juniors we have from last year, first year seniors, they are some of the fruit of that work now coming through.
He's hanging on in there. At the moment, Bjorn Schröder has 1:25, so they've only cut him down 3 seconds in the last 5 kilometers. And at the moment, that's pretty good. We'll have to see how much he can hang on in there. He's going to have to dig really, really deep in the last 10 kilometers. "60 kilometers an hour is what they're showing on the motorcycle speedometer there, with Alessandro Petacchi just taking in an energy gel while he can. Here we go. We're going to see the littering, and it will get picked up. Don't worry about it, folks. And he's sitting right at the back of this long train of riders, keeping the pace fairly high. Well, I think Bjorn Schröder's doing very well at the moment. 1:25. They lost 3 or 4 seconds over the last 5 kilometers.
Yes, he certainly is going at a very, very strong rate, because the bunch hasn't been hanging around at all for the last 20-25 kilometers. And since Schröder has been out there on his own, they're really pushing it on, and the gap is coming down very, very little. It's certainly a great performance. Unfortunately, on your own here, as you go into that final 10 kilometers, it's a big ask. If there was another rider or two with him, if the 3 riders had stayed together and really worked together, certainly they would have some chance of staying out. And it's amazing the way they calculate as well. Not only the bunch start calculating, but also the breakaway. We've seen it many times where they calculate and they just ride at 85%, 90%, and then they get to a point and they say to themselves, now we'll go for it at 100%, and everybody give it 100%. And we see it many times in the Tour last year in the first 10 days, where there was breaks looked like they had no chance of holding off, because at 20 kilometers they were a minute and 15, and they still held off to the finish, because I think the guys up there had the experience and they calculated very well within the breakaway.
Yep. You're thinking of if you're thinking of the same one as me, it's stage 4 into Nantes last year in the Tour de France in particular. But oh dear, should all be going around one way. They decided they will try and take a quicker way if it's at all possible. I don't think they made any ground on that. There's a very interesting clip actually that Mark Cavendish did, a background about sprinting from the Tour de France, where Sean and I had been commentating, and we noticed that the riders were going around both sides of a roundabout on the run into a finish about 3 kilometers out. And we commented that the riders who'd gone around the left-hand side of the roundabout were losing maybe 10-20 places to the guys who were going around the right-hand side of the roundabout. And Mark came back on the television. He was watching the screen, came back to the camera and said, yes, exactly right. Look how many places I lost there. All the work I did, I then had to go up, and I had to go up all the way through the peloton again. Luckily, I had somebody to take me up right the way to the front, but it was a really big mistake by one of the members of staff that they'd sent out there. And he was very, very cutting. He said, well, they certainly didn't do what they were asked to do on that day, and I hope they got disciplined for it. So, crikey. You can lose a lot of places around a roundabout, or any obstacles, if you haven't done the background first. And they do send people out, the teams, don't they, Sean, to report back. They get there in advance and go, actually, this looks like a simple run-in on the route book, but it isn't.
Yes, well, of course, there's team members who come in, earlier on in the day, and they do the final 15 kilometers, I presume, or maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. But certainly, in a car, you can give an indication how the final is. But it's difficult in the car as well to to give the perfect tactic. And also on the bunch, as you're coming along, and there's riders, they go to the right-hand side, but it's slowing up a bit and it's getting bunched up, and you can go to the left. Well, then you say to yourself, I might, you know, get a quicker run through the left, but it's actually maybe longer around. So it is always difficult to get it perfectly right in the run in, and you know, you're always going to get caught out on occasions when you make sprints all the time in the big tours. There's going to be days where you slip up a little bit, and your hope is that it's not too close to the finish. And if you do make a slip up, as you talked about, if you have a teammate who can take you up, well, that, you know, eases it a bit. You don't have to make the effort yourself, and it's so important.
So the big showdown will be, assuming Björn Schröder's caught, and there is the man out by himself, will be between Alessandro Petacchi and Mark Cavendish, but also not to forget Tyler Farrar from Garmin Slipstream, because they're working really hard on the front to set it up for him. And also the quick-step rider Alan Davis, who's been in fine form. He's been getting quicker and quicker as time goes through. That is Tyler Farrar on the left-hand side, just taking a little drink from his bidon. He's sitting behind Mark Cavendish at the moment, so he knows where he has to be. Petacchi sitting further up the line, actually, out of the way, and Menchov, first of the big favourites, just keeping out of the way. On his right-hand side is Levi Leipheimer. So Astana keeping their favourite for the overall classification out of trouble, just behind the train that's leading them in to catch this guy here, Björn Schröder. The train being driven along by Michael Barry. He pulls across and lets Barlow come in and do some work, because Robbie Hunter wants to have a go at this. The South African feels as though he should be taking a stage, especially as Barlow is an Italian-based team. So how close are they to Björn Schröder? This is the question. They're getting very close indeed now. Under the 10-kilometre to go banner for Schröder. Well, I would guess the gap is about, what, 45 seconds, something like that, Sean, maybe a little more.
1 minute, I would think, at the 10 kilometres. We were just hitting 1:10, so I would say it's down to that calculation, you know, a minute per 10 kilometres. But unfortunately, Schröder has been giving it a big effort here, and to keep it going, I think it's going to be, you know, not possible at all. It's 28 seconds.
28 seconds, yep. So it's really come down, hasn't it?
Yes, it's really coming down quickly. And again, you know, he's after doing a magnificent ride there, but you can't do that for, you know, 5 or 8 kilometres on your own, 10 kilometres max, and he's been, you know, doing that certainly for almost that, and just, you know, too far out and on his own too early. Yeah.
But it's funny how much of it is nerves, Sean. How much of these riders think, you know, these other guys who are with me are just simply not going to be able to go with it. I think I need to go now. And how much do you have to hold your nerve?
Well, of course, if the other guys are not prepared to ride and, you know, give it 100%, there's no point in having them with you. And if they're really suffering and starting to, you know, sit in and just, you know, get carried along, well, then they're, you know, they're more of a hindrance than anything else. You know, they're a carriage really, and you're better off just to get rid of them and go on your own. You can give it 100% and just focus on what's out in front. But yeah, the distance for the finish is always so important, and that was, yeah, again, the problem today. You know, he was much too far to go it alone at that point.
The run into today's last kilometre, which is dead straight along the side of the river, along the Viale George Washington. The last 5 kilometres, a straight run in, a little bit of a dogleg right, and then a 90-degree right-hand bend before the 3-kilometre banner. And then another about a half a kilometre and another 90-degree right. A long straight for about a kilometre, I would say, and then hard left and hard left again, and that runs you into the last straight road into the finish. So not a difficult finish today, but it's a case of how quickly they arrive at it, Sean. You know, the biggest, widest roads can be a peril if you've got 4 teams trying to go flat out at it.
Yes, well, certainly there's no guarantee when you get a very safe run in very, very wide roads, depending on what way the sprint is prepared as well. And, you know, there's times where it does, you know, tighten up a bit, but I think it will be a very fast run in today. Although the teams have, you know, done a lot here. Colombia have done more than they have been doing in any of the days of this race, because they've had to take it up quite early. Also Garmin, you know, up to the front here quite early. So it could be, you know, more of a difficult one to keep it going in the end. And if that's the case, we could see a very, very big group of riders all across the road. And that is the time when it's most dangerous for a crash, because you know, very, very tight and everybody pushing. And if one guy goes down when you're really grouped together, well, then they can be quite a big stack.
So, prediction today, Sean, who do you see for the win?
I think I'd go for Pataki today. It's one of the last days, and you know, he seems to be a bit more active there, up to the front a bit more. The last days he didn't seem to be really that, you know, enthusiastic about the sprint. 2 days ago he was there, but I feel today he seemed to be a little bit more you know, focused there, and we see him maybe a little bit more to the front. So I'll have a go for Pataki.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit outside of that. I think, well, I may well be wrong, but I think Alan Davis might have a chance today. We'll just have to see, though. It'd be nice to see Ben Swift coming through and doing something. Swift up towards the front, Pozzato up there as well. But that would be lovely if Ben Swift could come through and take a win in the Giro d'Italia. That really would be a breakthrough in his career. One of a number of young riders been placed in big teams over the last year. Johnny Bellis, of course, at CSC. He was placed, and now at Saxo Bank, of course. Bjorn Schröder, 15 seconds now. Well, it's slowly coming down. Well, it came down very fast, and now it's stabilized again. They're just waiting, because I think everybody in the peloton is just beginning to form themselves into that arrowhead. There's a lot of riders coming around the outside to get into the right position at the right time. Denis Menchov in the Maglia Rosa, the leader's jersey. Remember that Danilo Di Luca today in the Ciclamino jersey, the points jersey, the green jersey for mountains classification on the shoulders of Stefano Garzelli. And Schröder knows it's over and just easing off now. Just backing off, because he's been caught for the day with 5.9 kilometers to go. How dreadfully disappointing once again. But Astana on the front, Sean, that's a bit odd.
Yes, well, I think it's just maybe keep
nerves.
Are they keeping somebody out of danger here?
I don't know.
It doesn't look like they have Leipheimer or Armstrong up front there, and surprising to see them, because they haven't got anybody for a big burn sprint of you know, have any chance of going for a victory here. But surprising to see them. Normally when you see them around the front, well, they have some other, you know, general classement men, and that would be just to, you know, keep them up to the front, keep the speed high, and just out of danger really.
Yeah, very strange to see this on the front. We've got two Astana boys pushing the pace along on the front. Columbia High Road, there they are. And just Mark Cavendish in 173 on his shoulders, sorry, on his back. He is the last in line of these. It's Brakovic and Rubiera at the front. I think there might be little favours being made for maybe Alan Davis here. He was an ex-Discovery rider, had a bit of a problem having ridden for Discovery and getting another team. And of course these guys know Alan, and right behind it was the Quick Step guy. So I think they may be calling in a few favours here, Sean.
Well, I don't know. I doubt very much at this point. You know,
can't see any other reason though, can you?
Yes. Well, the reason why it's difficult to know, but as we can see, Leipheimer is moving up there, and just, I suppose, if you keep it going on the front, keep the pace high, and your teammate is in 6th or 8th position, with the pace being very high, it's always difficult for groups of flushes of riders to move up left and right, and I think that would be the reason, because at this stage I don't think they'd be thinking about past teammates. If you're in a breakaway with 5 or 6 riders and you're with a teammate from the past year, sometimes that does happen, but in the final of, you know, for a stage victory here at this moment, I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. A little bit of a shoulder on one of the Katusha rider, Pozzato getting a bit of a shoulder then by one of the Garmin boys. I think it might have been Farah, who knows. It's still, the pace is being kept very high here at the front now by Quick Step. Sean has gone for Alessandro Pataki today. He's lurking. look out for Mark Cavendish in the number 173 jersey. If you're looking over the top, he's at the back of any of Colombia's riders. He's not in a good position at the moment. It's a bit scrappy. They're all over the shop. Davis is up towards the front. They're setting out now to lead this one home. And it's Jaroslav Popovic at the front at the moment, and nobody's actually quite taken this by the scruff of the neck yet. Now Garmin are moving up on the left-hand side of your screen, on the right-hand side of the peloton, trying to keep things under control. Kevin Hulsmans with 3 kilometers to go. Hulsmans driving it along now. Hulsmans from Quick-Step. We've got a sharp left-hander, 90-degree left-hander, and a difficult little bend possibly coming up. I think they're a bit worried about where to be at the moment, but nobody was really taking charge of it there until these guys got on the front. Now we've got Wiggins second in line here, waiting to do exactly what he did the other day, but a little bit scrappy at the moment.
Well, yes, and you know, if you're on the front here, you certainly do not give it 100%. You try and just wait and wait, and you also just keep an eye what's happening behind. And if you see there's a lot of riders moving up, then you have to up it a bit. But you try and just delay it as much as possible, because if you can stay to the front with 2 or 3 riders from a team, that's so important. And on the front at the moment is certainly not a good place to be with the team. As we can see, the Columbia riders here, Cavendish, 2 riders in front of him, and they're in the perfect position, in about 6th or 7th position at the moment. They will make the move, and they will take Cavendish through just at the right moment as we go through the 2 kilometers to the finish. Look
at the effort that Wiggins is putting into the front here, with Miller on his wheel, waiting to come out and do his bit. Farah is further down, and then Mark Renshaw there with Mark Cavendish right behind him. Then Alessandro Petacchi, and then behind Petacchi is Ben Swift. Swift has got in a very good position. He knows where he has to be, and he's got on the wheel of Alessandro Petacchi, who is in turn on the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Now, Britain's David Miller hits the front, trying to drag this along now. There's another left-hander to go very shortly. They're all strung out in the line. They want to keep it as high as possible. Here comes the left-hander. Filing. Ooh, that's close to the camera. A little bit tight on this one. They've got to be very, very careful. That's the last of the bends they have to do. Now it's just a straight fight to the finish. They're really, really strung out here. Garmin Slipstream doing the work on the front. Now, Sean's gone for Alessandro Petacchi today. He's sitting in the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Behind him, there is Ben Swift. Can't see Alan Davis at the moment. He's around there somewhere, is he? Lurking, lurking, lurking. Julian Dean coming through now, and there's Davis has just got on the wheel of Dean. Now the Garmin boys being overhauled by Columbia High Road. They're going to go neck and neck. Tyler Farah leaning over to the left-hand side on Mark Cavendish. Is just touching. There's still that Renshaw to pull out from the back here. There's Cavendish, 173 on the left-hand side. Now they start the sprint. Cavendish still to be going, still to go. Matt Goss is the man from Saxo Bank who's trying to get on the wheel. Farah tries to move up in exactly the right position. Petacchi onto the wheel of Cavendish. Cavendish goes in from the outside. Hunter on the left-hand side. Cavendish and Petacchi. Petacchi's coming back, and Cavendish is not going to make it. Another win for the man from the Isle of Man. Mark Cavendish takes another sprint victory in the Giro d'Italia, with Alessandro Petacchi still trailing in his wake, and Alan Davis, I think, gets third. Farah missed out after all the hard work done by Garmin Slipstream once again, although he's in the right position this time.
Yes, well in the right position. Difficult to see there in that final movement at about 300 metres to go, 350. Quite a lot of movement, but certainly, was before that very much to the front. But sometimes too close to the front is not good either. And Petacchi also, not really getting out at the right time, not getting the run at Cavendish. But certainly, it looked like that he was always going to have difficulty coming over Cavendish once again.
Mark Cavendish takes another win in a Grand Tour sprinter. Is he going to become the greatest sprinter of all time, one wonders? Well, certainly in the modern era anyway. He's got to try and overhaul riders like Mario Cipollini. Well, many other great sprinters as well, but Cavendish takes the win ahead of Alessandro Petacchi, as you can see. They are very happy Well, now they'll have to change their focus a little bit with another win for Cavendish. It's back to Rogers now in the overall classification for Columbia High Road. Well, who would have thought that a rider from the Isle of Man would end up being the fastest man in the world in the last 2.5 years, and we are exceptionally proud of him and very pleased that he did here back in the United Kingdom. He has what some people call arrogance. It's not that. It's simply he's just brimming with untapped energy, and he just releases it all in the sprint. Mark Cavendish once again showing he's the fastest man on a bicycle on the planet, and Alessandro Petacchi would have dearly loved to have taken that. Close but no cigar.
Yes, well, certainly close, and Petacchi did, move closer to him there, and I think, that's always the case. When you move out, you get to the halfway to the, halfway on the bike of the guy who's leading, but then when you start taking the wind, that's the time you get caught out, and I think certainly that was the case with Petacchi. He moved quickly forward and seemed to be gaining on Cavendish, but when you see it over the line, there was certainly a bike length plus there, and it just tells you that Cavendish, the way the power he's got and the explosive sprint he's got.
Here you go, you can see it now that Tyler Farrar is just ahead of Mark Cavendish at this point, just leaning on Renshaw, and Farrar misses out there. Look what happens. He misses out by watching Cavendish go through on the left-hand side. Then he has to try and come back again.
And Petacchi also misses out with the two Saxo Bank riders, yep. And then he comes into the wheel of Cavendish, but Cavendish has already started his sprint at that time, and that little effort in the wind for Petacchi, I think it paid the price. As we see here, he's moving up a bit on him, but certainly, is never really a big challenge to Cavendish.
So a wonderful job again by Columbia High Road, because they did everything absolutely right. My pick for the day, Alan Davis, again missed it. He was in a good position up until about 250 meters, and like Petacchi, got into the wrong side of the train and had to throttle off and then get back on the gas again. But Tyler Farrar, well, he's still got a lot to learn, Sean, because initially he's got the riders in front of him, he's leading in front of Cavendish, and suddenly he just steps off the gas and completely throws his sprint effort.
Yes, well, steps up the gas, or the other one steps on the gas, I'm not sure. And he's there, but we can see him, he just seems to be struggling. When they really go on that final 150 meters, that's when he starts to lose a bit of ground. And the amazing thing with Columbia is, again, we see Bosenhag and Renshaw there, who was just a magnificent lead out, and he just takes Cavendish to the moment, and he knows as well when Cavendish needs to take it over. I think he just moves over and allows Cavendish a straight road, and then it's so difficult for anybody to be a challenger to Cavendish.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Look at that. Look, just moves over, keeps out of everybody's way. Robbie Hunter comes around the inside of him, and Hunter finishing well as well. So another win for Cavendish and Columbia High Road, the dominant team of this year's Giro d'Italia. Forget their pink jersey for the moment, but look at this, a bike length, half a bike length between Cavendish and Petacchi. Davis coming trailing in third spot. Look, here's Farrar leaning on Mark Renshaw's shoulders. Look, well, at the moment he's in the right position, and then look, he just throttles off. Wait for it, wait for it.
And that is difficult for a sprinter if you have to start pushing, and Renshaw, of course, is able to do the job so well. And we see Cav behind, never worried about any problems with Renshaw, and he has a confidence in him, and that's so important. If you have the confidence in your lead out man, it makes it so much easier, and you're just sitting there in the slipstream as he looks about there just before he goes, and he sees that Petacchi is coming, and then he decides now is the moment.
Yes, young Tyler Farrar has some work to do in terms of positioning and bottle as well, to be honest, because at half of it he seems to, when he gets to that crucial moment where he needs to go with the wheel of somebody, he seems to hesitate just a little bit. Magnificent view of Florence, looking down the river, but another win for an Englishman abroad. Here we are from the head-on shot, and you can see the way that Petacchi and Davis have to switch from one side of the sprint to the other to get into the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Ben Swift up there as well, you can see, behind Matt Goss, so finishing in the top 10 once again for Ben Swift. And again, he has a little bit to learn. I think he hasn't got quite the outright speed of some of the others, but here we are. Here's the general classification. No change. Menchov, Di Luca, Leipheimer, Pellizotti, Sastre in that order for the top 5. 3 riders getting off the front here to go over the top of the mountains classification at this 3rd climb of the day, which is the validity after 117 kilometers. 2 ISD, 1 from Cervelo, so we know who the 2 guys from ISD are. They are Grifko and Visconti. Here we are, just a little replay. And Grifko, Visconti, and then Philip Dijknen. And Dijknen in super good form today, and that's a great thing to see, because he either gets plagued by injury or just something happens and he's just not really fulfilled his potential. I think possibly a little more serious than he was in the last 2 or 3 years as well, Sean, maybe. He's found a new lease of life here at Cervelo.
Yes, I think he's certainly got more serious, and even before he came to Cervelo, I think he had to pull himself together. He was a guy who liked maybe a little bit of the easier life and enjoyed life, I suppose, and that's something, you know, it comes from, I suppose, back in Ireland in the last year, in the last 10 years, certainly, things have been so good. It's the style of life the younger generation are leading, and we certainly have it also with the cycling academy in Belgium, where they send young riders over the junior ranks, for example, and they're certainly, you know, not living the style of a bike rider as they do in Belgium, for example. But they, you know, they adjust, and that's all part of the process as well with Cycling Ireland and the academy. Send them over there, live the lifestyle of a rider, also get into races, which is, you know, better standard of races, and it's all the learning curve. And certainly Dijknen, you know, he's, you know, improved a lot, and he's, you know, he has a great talent. Just that injury problem as well. He seems to get sick pretty easily when he gets into good shape, and you know, that is a problem for a lot of riders. It's not only Dijknen. When you're really in top shape, that's the time you're prone to getting a cold very easy, and he's, you know, had quite a bit of that.
Yeah, he does seem to suffer from that. Of course, he had a very bad knee injury a few years ago as well, which took him some time to get back from as well. Here's the top 10 then, if you in the Ras, if you're interested. Sam Bennett, we know, has already won. Joachim Tolles was 2nd. Jan Kursipiu, continuing to ride at the age of 39, was 3rd. Nico Urquhart was 4th from Sean's Ampost team. Ross Downing 5th, Nick Walker 6th, Paul Helian 7th, who won yesterday, of course, Ian Wilkinson 8th, Barry Monaghan 9th, and Luke Roberts rounds out the top 10 in the Ras. There we go. Oh, it's a long road by yourself. That's Muller. Martin Muller, who's been slowly tailed off. So we're down to 13. It's beginning to get that time now where the stronger men will start to pull away. Looking good for Dijknen at this particular point. Now, who have we got? We've in our questions so far. Matty Holden. Nope, not quite right, Matty. Graham and Karen Stewart. Nope, not quite right. You've got 1, 2 out of your 6 in there, actually, Graham. So still some people. Phil Aiken's got it right so far. And let's see if anybody else has got it. Oh, so clear and yet so not so close, but not so right. Stephen in Ayrshire. Every one of them correct except one, funnily enough, because we'd already said Tom Bonan only has 8. So Tom Bonan isn't one of them. Stephen in Ayrshire getting that not quite right, so keep going. We've only got one right answer so far. Phil Aitken, well done, sir. Lots and lots of tifosi out on the side of the road once again on these climbs. It's a good day for riders who, for fans who want to come and see at the side of the road, Sean. Lots of variety. You're going to see a breakaway up the road. You're going to get a good day's entertainment.
Yes, well, certainly the mountain stages are the place to be, and you can see, you know, the riders going by at that slower rate, and you can pick out some of your riders, and that's what we see in the big tours on the major mountain climbs. You get all the spectators, and of course the weather here is, you know, it's been fabulous right through this Giro, and again today, magnificent weather. We can see the people there, and that's also important, and it brings the people out. They make a day of it, like in the Tour of France, where, you know, they come out early in the morning and they have their picnic out there. And of course, with the big tours, you have the caravan, the publicity caravan as well, which goes through roughly about, you know, 2 hours, an hour and a half before the riders, and that's also, you know, it's interesting. So yeah, it's a great day out for people who are cycling enthusiasts.
Somebody wrote in a question either today or yesterday saying, why doesn't Alessandro Petacchi get a lead-out train in from LPR when he is sprinting in the same way as Mark Cavendish has been getting from Colombia? Well, I think really their whole focus has been on to support Danilo Di Luca. They built their entire Giro around that, and so the people they brought in are just there to help Danilo Di Luca. I think Alessandro Petacchi, despite the fact that he's quite happy to be there at the moment, and we had heard rumours that he's talking to Silence Lotto, even in time to go to the Tour de France. You never know. Maybe he is happy, maybe he isn't happy. We shall not know until a little later in the season when the transfer window comes up in June. The first day of June, the transfer window will come up. But everything's built around Di Luca. Whoop! Come on, Guillaume. Keep your eye on the road, sir. Motorcycles are big and they hurt when you hit them. Bonnefond, doing well actually. He's young Guillaume Bonnefond. He's only 21 years of age and doing extremely well. It's the third break he's been in. Welcome back. Well, Guillaume Bonnefond managed to stay upright and narrowly avoid running into the back of the motorcycle. I was just trying to remember with Sean when we saw the last big motorcycle running into the back of incident, and I can't remember which Grand Tour it was in. Somebody will remind me. I think it was the Tour de France, but it was Igor Martinez when he was riding for Discovery. He came round a corner, looked over his shoulder, didn't see the camera bike in front of him, and went absolutely full pelt into it. So luckily he was all right, funnily enough. It could have been very, very nasty. But if somebody remembers where that was, even better, because I know there are some people out there who have this sort of incredible depth of knowledge, or either that or they write all these things down, one of the two. If they can remember what stage he was in, that's really, really incredibly good. I'd be very, very impressed. All sorts of technical questions coming in today. How many watts are people pushing uphill? Ooh, depends how big you are, really. But just going slightly away from that as a specific question, Sean, are you a fan of the fact that over the last few years power measurement has become sort of, seems to be the holy grail of choosing riders? You know, if you can produce enough wattage, then you're in.
Well, I think that is certainly a good pointer for the track, because the events are relatively short, but for the road it's a bit more complicated. But they work on that basis also, what, you know, the wattage they can turn out. But of course, you know, in the professional race, it's very long distance, and when you get to, you know, the fourth, fifth hour of racing, that's the time you have to be able to do it. And if you can do it at that time, is so important. And so, you know, it depends. If you can keep on doing it over a long period, and you know, as an endurance sport, which professional bike racing is, because they're out here every day for you know, 4 hours plus, and that is the important thing. If you can do it at that point in the last hour and a half, if you can turn out the high wattage.
You mentioned the fact that cycling is, of course, an endurance sport, which leads me nicely onto a comment rather than a question from Vic in Portsmouth. In the UK, saying stage winners like Mark Cavendish, their wins within a Grand Tour, in his opinion, are meaningless and worthless because they don't have to pace themselves over the 3 weeks like other riders. They don't have to have that endurance thing. If they can't complete the course, they shouldn't be allowed to enter, and they should stick to one-day races of the track. If they choose, which he's got in capital letters, not to finish, they should lose their stage wins. It's a 3-week tour, not a pick and mix. What do you think of that?
Well, I don't agree, because it's so difficult, you know, to say if a rider goes out of the tour because of injury. Like if a guy, you know, wins 2 or 3 stages in the first 10 days of a race, and then he gets an injury and he has to go out of the race, well, you know, you cannot take his prize money from him, and that's something it's very difficult, you know, to know if a rider is injured. if that rule is there. So I do not agree. And of course, we've seen it more in the past years where the sprinters, they prepare and they do so far into the race as Cavendish have done, and this year going out now and resting up for the Tour. But he's a young rider, and you have to remember, like, 2 big tours is a huge demand, and I can understand why Columbia are taking him out of the race at this point, because it's really difficult from here on in. He's not going to get anything from the race. They're not going to get no exposure for the sponsors, and the Tour of France is so important. So you have to make that calculation. But again, yes, there is something to be said. If you look back 25 years ago, people went to the race and they finished. But now it's the way they ride, and what the way they prepare and how far they go on the race has totally changed certainly the past 20 years.
Well, let me just sort of get it right what you were saying. I mean, I understand. Obviously, the point here from Vic was if they choose not to finish, they should lose their stage wins and obviously their prize money and all that sort of stuff. It's a 3-week tour, not a pick in the mix. But are you saying that the likelihood is that if a rider like, not Cavendish specific, but a sprinter were to think, right, you know what, I'm going to have to go away now and prepare for either the World Championships or the Tour de France or the Vuelta a España or whatever it is, they might well say, well, I've got a bit of a cold, I've got a bit of the flu, I've got a bit of a knee strain or whatever, and they'll just use it as an excuse.
Yes, exactly. They're going to just find some excuse, and they can say, well, I have a knee problem, and just I cannot go on, and how can you prove that? So it's just impossible to really know if a guy has got an injury or not if you have that regulation in there.
So it's pays your money, it takes your choice, really. Yevgeny Petrov is chasing back onto the leaders 13 because he's just had a puncture. We didn't see it, but he's trying to get back into this group. The 13 riders still in the breakaway. We've lost Martin Müller of Milram. He's been tailed off the back. The last time check we had was 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Back from the remaining breakaway riders to Müller, and then 4:30 from the breakaway back to the peloton. And I think probably that looking at the way Müller was going up the hill, he's probably, well, there he is actually on the right hand side. It's he has been caught, in fact. So we remain to get the latest gap from Race Radio. So it's Bonafont of AG2R trailer and Froome of Barlow, Kirienka of Kestepania, Gavazzi of Lampre, Reda of Quickstep, Dignan and Gerrans, both of the Cervelo test team, Visconti and Grifko of ISD, Bertogliati of Dequa Giovanni, Petrov of Katusha and Voganov of Jacobio Galicia are still in the breakaway. Martin Cilingi, the first man in line there for Rabobank. Interesting rider, had a fantastic season in his last 2 seasons were really, really good when he was at Skill Shimano. Went to Silence Lotto last year, didn't do a whole heap, I have to say, and then this year has ended up at Rabobank. Seems to be a lot more happy here.
Yeah, well,
in general, he seems to be doing better.
Yes, well, I suppose in a Dutch team, it's probably a little bit easier for a Dutch rider. Certainly, it's important to be, happy in the team, because if you're not getting on the team for some reason, well, then it certainly doesn't help your performance. When you look back at when he was with the skilled team, certainly he was performing very well. And sometimes a program of races as well, if you're in a bigger team, you're thrown into bigger races maybe, and you start to lose the morale a bit, which with Shimano, maybe he was riding small races and is getting some results, and if you're getting results, the morale comes good, and that's so important.
Vasily Kirienka is the man on the back here. And we were hoping to get through to Vin Denson today, actually. We'll try and get hold of him tomorrow. Couldn't get hold of him today. We're not that far from Campo Basso, where he won his stage back in 1966, I think it was, in becoming the first British rider to win a stage in the Giro d'Italia. But it'd be lovely to talk to him at some point. We'll either do it today or tomorrow. We're still not that far from tomorrow. And have a chat to him, especially as we've now got a British rider who's just exited the Giro d'Italia but is so successful now. Okay, we will go back to the question. So far we've only got one man who's got it right, and that is Phil Aitken. Got all 6 of them. And we will just give you another few minutes to have another go. The question that was asked was, Mark Cavendish, who's now out of the Giro d'Italia, withdrawn this morning, has 9 victories in Grand Tours to his name. He's got 5 in the Giro and 4 in the Tour. Daniele Bonatti's also got 9, so has Tor Uzoft. So above them, with more stage victories, there are 6 current riders, 6 riders who are still riding professionally. Can you name them? That's who they are. If you can tell me how many there are, that's even better. But I wouldn't worry if you can't. Beautiful weather, Sean. This is a fabulous part of the world to ride in. In fact, I noticed that this morning in the foreign edition that I picked up of the British paper, The Guardian, there was a section in there, the travel section they had in the middle. They had something about riding in Italy, actually. It was called the Pasta Peloton, and there's a whole load of people come out here for holidays every year. It's become a massive industry, isn't it, cycling holidays out here?
Yes, well, of course, it's a huge industry now, and there seem to be more and more people, you know, getting on their bikes and doing these leisure events, and you know, the big leisure events which they have in Italy and France, like, you know, the Étape de Tour and the big classic ones. It's amazing, you know, the big numbers they get, and even in the countries where it's smaller, but, you know, like back in Britain, back in Ireland, where cycling wouldn't be as popular, all these events are, you know, are getting huge fields now taking part in the leisure cycling events.
There's been a whole industry built up in Tuscany and that sort of area where hotels put up cyclists, and you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds every year turning up. And they have specialist guides and so on, and then go out for a week's riding. Terrific stuff. There's Gavazzi at the front. He's been in good shape in this Giro d'Italia. Philip Dijkman goes through to take his turn at the front. Lance Armstrong, get a lot of pictures of him. Well, interestingly, some of the media, the Italian and English media, English-speaking media, are boycotting his Twitter sites now in protest to the fact he won't speak to the press. He really does court it, doesn't he, in one way or the other. There's nothing easy about dealing with Lance. Okay, we'll take a short commercial break and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back. Live shots then of LPR controlling the front of the peloton, beginning to up the pace to try and track down these 13 men who are remaining in the break. Bonifant, Trailer, Froome, Kirienka, Gavazzi, Reda, Dijkman, Gerrans, Visconti, Grifko, Bertogliati, Petrov and Voganov. And they are riding very well, and it's an interesting group. There is Gianpaolo Cela. Happy birthday, sir. 30 today. Vasily Kirienka, just going through your shot, a winner in the Giro d'Italia last year, and a mountaintop finish as well. And there is Simon Gerrans from Cervelo Test Team, also a winner in the stage, but not in the Giro, in the Tour de France last year when it came to Italy itself. And that was a good stage victory by Simon Gerrans. He led Igor Martinez, fun enough, who we noticed we were talking about just earlier, running into the back of a motorcycle, do most of the work. Danny Pate was also in that particular 3-man breakaway that went up to the mountaintop finish in Italy, and he jumped both of them.
Yes, he certainly did. He put up a great performance on the climb. He was in trouble in the earlier section of the climb, and he just, you know, clawed his way back to the two of them, to Martinez and Pate, and actually, you know, recovered quite well, and you know, had a great stage victory. You know, it looked like it was all over him when we started that climb, but you know, that's the way you have to be able to calculate the effort as well. They were out there for a long time that day. They made a big effort, you know, to hold on to the advantage to get to the bottom of the climb, and certainly, you know, Gerrans, I think, experience meant a lot there, and a magnificent stage victory.
Thank you, Sue. Igor Martinez, motorbike, Amstel Gold, 2007. There you go. So now riding for Euskaltel Ascari. But it was a right old bash at the back. We've still only got one man with the right answers to the question, and I'm going to give you another 5 minutes until 15 and then I'm going to give you the answer. LPR want this one today, Sean, for Danilo Di Luca, because how important are these seconds going to be, bonus seconds over today and tomorrow? Well,
it's the opportunity for Di Luca to pull back some time, and today is certainly, you know, a perfect opportunity. This sort of finish, he can do that so well. It's just over 2 kilometers and a very, very steep section in the middle of it, and he's certainly, you know, going for it with the team. But I wonder, have they calculated a little bit too fine, because the last advantage time for the break here was 4 minutes 40, I think, but it's certainly coming down we can see that they've upped the pace a lot, but we're getting to the 40 kilometres to go, and still, you know, quite a lot of numbers out front is big in the breakaway, and that's going to play into the hands of the break. So it will be, you know, a difficult task for them to maybe to close this one down in this final 40 kilometres. We just have to see now, because they have really upped the pace. We can see with the bunches just stretched out in one line what will come down to in this time check.
Yep. It's going to be significantly less than 4:20, I would suspect. 4:30, in fact, race radio are giving us for the last cap, so they're moving well up front, but I think Witzke going to be coming down as soon as we get the next time check. Very important day back in the UK and all over the Europe, I suppose, in football playoffs. But I'm afraid Helen's father, if you're still watching the playoff game for Shrewsbury Town, it's time for the Giro. And it doesn't make any difference. The Giro is far more important. And me being a Shropshire-based chap, I don't say that lightly. Let your daughter watch the Giro. That's what we say. Pink jersey of Dennis Menchov, just needing to keep out of trouble today. You're going to have to keep a wary eye on riders like Di Luca. I mean, how will he be able to follow him on the sort of short, steep sections today? Just going to have to dig in, Sean?
Yes, it's difficult for Menchov. He's not that explosive style. He's, you know, a great climber. Long climbs he can just hang in there, but on these short ones, and it's, you know, it's going to be a very explosive final, because with just a little over 20 kilometres, we have a short hill as well, which is also about 2 kilometres and also quite steep. So, you know, certainly a difficult final. But this, you know, the real one to the finish is going to be certainly playing into the hands of Di Luca, because he can do that so well, and we've seen him many times. It's, you know, it's the classic style of rider, like in, you know, Flèche Wallonne, for example, Liège, Bastogne, Liège, Amstel Gold, and Di Luca has done so well in the past in those, and he's been doing this in this Giro. He's, you know, in the first week we had some of that. So, you know, certainly Menchov not looking forward to this final today, because it's going to be a difficult one for him to control Di Luca. But the question is, will they be able to take this one back? Because, you know, the advantage we'll see now, as we, you know, see it is still quite a substantial advantage for the breakaway.
Yes, that was little Paolo Bettini, little Paolo, as my wife calls him, on the back of a motorcycle, doing the onboard commentaries for Rai Sport in the same way as Laurent Jalabert does them for France. For French television during the Tour de France. One of the reasons we saw so many shots of Lance Armstrong the other day in the time trial is that Bettini's motorcycle commentary team were actually behind him, so that's why we saw a lot of that. Brian from Coventry, you've listened to the question. You are now correct. 3:55, 35 kilometers to go, so it is coming down. It's under 4 minutes now. Interesting to see Pataki just being pushed back into the line there to do some work at Sean a little bit earlier. He's not usually used to this sort of tradition. Everybody else does it for him.
Yes, certainly it's more so that everybody's riding for him on the front, but of course today, you know, he's nothing for Pataki in this final, and they're going to use him, and they need him now as well, because, you know, as you said, the advantage is 3:55. Certainly, you know, a difficult one to pull back at this moment, because we're getting to that stage. You know, well, up front, I think they've certainly upped the pace in the last 15 or 20 kilometres. And you know, the LPR, they need all the manpower up here, and we can see, like, they've, you know, all the riders on the front, and it's been a difficult day, because the third day the average was 39.3, so that tells you it's not been an easy day. The bunch haven't been hanging around either when this breakaway went away, considering, like, the route today, those 3 very big mountains, you know, 12 and 15 kilometre climbs. So it's certainly a day where, you know, everybody's going to be tired as we get to the end of this stage, and it's not a flat stage by any means, with these very steep hills and just in the last kilometres.
3 second category climbs in the first 2/3 of the route today. The Passo de Collina, the Valiccio di Mediano, and the Valiccio di Tolli. They've all been gone over now, and it's John think writing in on cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com saying, how do they work out a mountains classification? Simply points, that's all it is. First man over the top gets the maximum points. The bigger the mountain is, the more points you get for going over the top. So a third category gets 3, 2 and 1 in that order, first, second, third. Second cats today have had 5, 3 and 1. First categories get 10, 6, 4, 2 and 1. And the out of categories, the really big ones, 15, 10, 6, 4 and 2. And there's been one climb where they've had double points over the top, the Kimokopi climb that was taken by Stefano Garzelli the other day when he had that long breakaway over Sastre. But that's how it works. It's just an accumulation of points. Nobody in the breakaway has a real threat to the overall classification at the moment. Welcome back. The gap is coming down, but they're trying hard at the front. Rubens Bertogliati just moving aside to let Chris Froome come and do some work on the front, and then Gavazzi coming through, and they're thrown off pretty quickly. We've got lots and lots of answers now to the question. We're just going to read a few who have got them right. If you've got these names down, you are correct. Top of the list of current riders professionally who are who've got more than 9 wins. Alessandro Petacchi, we just saw him earlier. He's got 21 Giros, 4 in the Tour, 19 in the Vuelta, 44 in total. Robbie McEwen, 12 in the Giro, 12 in the Tour. Lance Armstrong, 22 in total, 22 all taken in the Tour. Ossie may change that, of course, this time around. Oscar Freire with 11 has 4 in the Tour, 7 in the Vuelta. Danilo Di Luca with 10, 8 in the Giro and 2 in the Vuelta, none ever in the Tour de France. Filippo Simeoni also has 10, 7 in the Giro, 1 in the Tour and 2 in the Vuelta. That's the answer. Phil Aitken, you got it. Brian, you got it. Miha Vosel from Slovenia, you got it. David Godin, you also got it as well. If you've got those names, Petacchi, McEwen, Armstrong, Freire, Di Luca and Simeoni, those are the riders who have more victories than Mark Cavendish. Back with the breakaway then, and it's Yevgeny Petrov on the front. They're working well together still, Sean. There's no panic here. It's just through and off, through and off, through and off.
Yes, they're certainly working well together, and they need to, all pull their weight here, because the advantage is, it's coming down. But certainly it looks interesting now. We could see them, going on and maybe going to the final, and some of them having, a chance to have a run at the stage victory here. But certainly in the bunch is also going really fast with here over Race Radio. There are 30-35 riders losing contact on the rear of the bunch, and that tells us that the pace has been up and up all the time at the LPRs. Will they have enough of power and enough of speed here to pull this one back? Because it's still certainly, I think, over the 3 minutes, around the 3 minutes, and we're getting that stage now where it's looking promising for the breakaway for the first time, I think, in this year's race, that a breakaway looks like they have a pretty good chance of holding on out there.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well at the moment. There's some very experienced guys in here, and people who won from a breakaway. Well, Kirienka won a stage in last year's Giro, a mountaintop finish as well. I think he would quite fancy his chances today. There's some good punchy riders if they get to the end as a breakaway. Then there are some good punchy riders in that group who could possibly take something. Do you think a Gerrans or even a Dijkman, do you think he's got the zip to go up there quick enough?
Yes, I think there's quite a few there with that sort of kick, and it depends how they feel. And if you're really strong in the end, you're feeling good. Well, then there's at least 4 or 5 riders who I would have difficulty, picking out who could take the stage victory. But Kirienka, of course, he's proven that he's a really strong rider out there in the break all day. He's still, so strong in the final. He certainly, has that advantage. If you look at Gerrans, for example, he's done it in the Tour as we talked about last year, so he certainly can do it also. Dijkman as well, if he's really on a good day, I think he could, this finish would suit him, because with the uphill finish, if there was a flat finish in the last 8 or 10 kilometers, there was a flat running, well, he would be certainly at his disadvantage. So it's a good finish for Dijkman. There's a few more as well there, I think, which we cannot count out if they hold on to the finish and have a go at the stage victory.
Well, a World Cup. Just making sure everybody's got enough liquids at the moment. And LPR still determined to cut this gap down. Good news for Denis Menchov's team, in the sense that they're not having to do any work at the front. If you really wanted to nail your colours to the mast, you couldn't do much better than this, could you? LPR saying, I think we'll go for a victory today.
Yes, well, certainly, you know, he's announced that he's
absolutely
he's going to go for the stage victory and go for the time bonifications. That means, you know, if you get up in the top three, you get a bonification in time. But also, you know, it's not over. If this group holds on, if Luca can go on the attack in the end, he could always take that 15-20 seconds plus from Menchov in the final run in. So they're going to continue here, even if they've maybe, you know, saying now it's not sure that we can take this group back, this breakaway. They're going to continue on all the way. I think, you know, they have committed themselves and they just have to continue it on right to the final climb, and then allow Di Luca to do it on the last 2 kilometres up to the finish.
Liquigas trying to keep their men out of the way. Now looking through drinking a cup of coffee this morning and looking through the press, looking through Gazzetta dello Sport, they're beginning to make something of the duel, as they call it, between the duel within, and that's duel as in D-U-E-L as opposed to duel inside Liquigas, between Pellizotti and Basso. Now, nothing's been made of it within the team itself, but do you think, Sean, that there is coming a time, are they making something out of nothing here? Or as we've suspected or we've talked about, should we say, over the last few days, is there going to have to come down to a showdown? Who are we supporting here?
Well, I would not really take much notice of the press, because you know, sometimes they might just start just writing that up. A lot of the time, you know, they try and, you know, get a little bit of controversy going between the riders and the team. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to see Basso and Pellizotti pulling pretty well together. Although we did talk about in the first week where Basso he started making the pace, where Pellizotti had problems following. But I think it was just, you know, tactic-wise they got a little bit wrong, and I feel they'll have to ride together in the stages, the very important stages. But we have to see today what happens with Pellizotti and Basso. You know, if one of them loses more time, well then we could see a situation where the other has to, you know, really support the best one in the general classement.
I think it could be a very telling day today for Liquigas, to be honest. I think Pellizotti's probably got more spring in his step for a finish like this. We've seen it in the last 3 or 4 days, Sean, where you get to the sort of hills they're going to finish on today, and Pellizotti seems to be able to pull it out of the bag.
Yes, well, certainly, I think he's been the better one, as we see Diagnan going on here. The gap is coming down very rapidly. We see 1:48 was the last time advantage they have, which is certainly, you know, it's melted down a lot. And you know, when we see him attacking up front now, I think, you know, it's going to be difficult, because we're still around the 20 kilometres to go. So you know, for a one man to go it alone here, as we see Diagnan trying to do that with that advantage, it's going to be difficult, because after this climb we have almost 20 kilometres, certainly 16 or 17 kilometres on the flat between this climb and the final climb to the finish. So, you know, that's where you will really have problems holding on out here on your own.
Guillaume Bonnefond has tried to come out of that breakaway group to get across to Philippe Diagnan. He's on the Monteregino climb, the 3rd category climb at the end of this day. Remember, we still have a climb going up to San Luca, and it's Gabriele Bossiccio once again on the front. They're not going to allow this. This looks like it's going to start splitting up. This is the point, I think, Sean, where it's going to become a 2-break situation. Diagnan's lit the fuse, really, and there's a number of other riders coming across, including that man we just talked about, Vasily Kirienka. Would fancy his chances, I think, from a small group towards the end. As we've also mentioned, Diagnan could. It remains to be seen who's strong enough to get across to Philip. So LPR on the front, Bossiccio on the right, Specialezzi in the middle, and Di Luca just behind. The big jersey of Denis Menchov a bit further back. You can see behind him two or three riders behind Denis Menchov is the young rider's jersey of Thomas Lundqvist. Diagnan turning the pedals Nice and smoothly, spinning a low gear as he does. Look at Vasily Kirienko grinding it out behind him. He's got Rubens Bertogliati with him, and I think it's Chris Froome behind. So that's 4, and there's, I think, another couple coming up as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's whittled down to about a half of this breakaway at the moment. These guys are going to try and push on hard now.
Yes, well, they certainly have to push on hard. The advantage, as we see, 147. It's really coming down, and you know, they need 3 or 4 riders out there in front, because, you know, Philip dying on his own, it would be always majorly difficult to hang on out there. And if you have to make that big effort, you know, over the last 16 kilometers and then the final climb, you're really going to have, you know, difficulty keeping it going on the final 2K to the finish. So they, you know, they need to have a number of riders, and coming back together, I think, is a good thing. If they can get organised again and really work together, they could hold on to this advantage for quite a bit more. But we can see here the LPRs, I think, on the climb, they just steadied it up a bit and just want to keep, you know, a few of the riders from the team there on the front of the group, because that's going to be the problem now. If they lose a lot of their riders, well then who's going to take up the pace setting after the climb in this flat section of about 16 kilometers?
Well, both Gerrans has got back to this group as well, so now 2 of the Cervelo test team riders in there. I don't think I saw either of the ISD riders get across, and I don't think I saw the second of the Barlow World riders, Gianpaolo Tuela, get across either. He'd love to, because it's his birthday today. And the pink jersey of Denis Menchov right behind the Ciclamino jersey of Danilo Di Luca now. Now they're being vigilant, Sean. He's being vigilant. He knows Di Luca is his main threat at this point.
Yes, but certainly I think we could see that right from the earlier part of today's stage, when they started to control the race. And I think he'd announced it pretty much, you know, in the press from the last, certainly yesterday and more so today. The interesting one now is we can see very little LPR riders hanging around the front here. He just have the one teammate to keep the pace on the climb, but hopefully they can just, you know, get themselves together again and get back up to the front, because they need a few more riders here. Who's going to keep it going after this climb in the last 20 kilometers until we get this final climb of the day up to the finish?
Well, we'll get a full rundown on who is still in that breakaway, whether it's split in the middle, and of course the others not that far behind, Sean. They could all come back together, and we could end up with possibly an 11 or 12 again. Here is that Giovanni Visconti? It is. So Visconti's gone over the top at 133. Well, we know now there's a couple of the riders that have been completely blown out the back. Big enough gap, or will we get a bigger group coming down the other side? I suspect, Sean, that we're going to get 8, 9, 10 riders.
Yes, well, the gap, as we see, 144 at the moment. It is a good gap, and up front, you know, we see at least 8 riders, 9 riders together. If you know, if they get working together, it could be enough to get to the final climb of the day. But they have really to work together. If they keep on attacking each other, that's where they're going to lose the time. But the interesting thing is, at the moment, we see De Luca teammates are getting, you know, very, very few on the front of this main bunch.
Froome, Bertogliati and Petrov, the 3, 2 and 1 points over the top of the Mongrandino. 137 is the gap back to this man here and his team. Fantastic weather today, and as far as we know from Race Radio, nobody crashing today, which will make a change. I'm sure there are some out there. It usually happens, but the breakaway, well, they've got to work together now as they come down off the Mongrandino. And Giovanni Visconti once again about to be taken in by the Peloton. We're going to go to a short commercial break, but I'm glad that Matt Dowler and Tom Staniford are watching the Giro today, enjoying it, despite having brought each other down during the Exeter Bike Club, University of Exeter Bike Club chain gang the other night. So I'm glad you're enjoying it anyway. Welcome back. 11 riders up the front now, as Gianpaolo Tuela is no longer there. He's still to be caught by the Peloton, although Giovanni Visconti has been caught. Martin Müller went quite some time ago, so they've all joined back together on the descent, the Mongrandino. running in towards the finish now. In Bologna, San Luca is the hill. The Giro d'Emilia was won on that hill by Danilo Di Luca. He knows he can perform there. He knows the sort of rider that he could do something. Will he feel a little aggrieved, Sean, having had all this work? I would do if he had all this work done by LPR and the break stays away.
Well, a little bit disappointing, of course, because you know, you're not riding for the stage victory if they hang on out in front, and the bonifications are so important. But he can also do, you know, do a good day here if he takes some time, and that depends on the other favourites how they fare out. If he can get away on the final climb and take 20 or 30 seconds, it's always a bonus. But yeah, you would say then, well, if we had caught that break, you get that extra bonification time, which is it is disappointing when you consider the team, the amount of work they have put in today.
Great work by the breakaway riders, though. Originally it was 14, it's now down to 11. Actually, I thought it might have split up a little bit more than that initially, but there's still a strong group together. The question will be, I mean, what will they do if they arrive at the bottom of the San Luca hill? I guess if you ride with 11 men or 10 men or 8 men, you just ride up as hard as you can. It's as simple as that. Nothing else you can do. If you start messing about, then they're definitely going to catch you.
Yes, well, of course, you have to really keep it, keep the pace high, and hopefully that everybody pull their weight out front. And that's the question. We haven't really seen the breakaway now for a long time. To see are they all walking out front, or there's some guys who want to sit on. It looks like they're going pretty well together here, and they need to do that, onto the final climb. And if they can hold on to that advantage of a minute going on to the final climb, well, then certainly it's possible to hold out there for the stage victory between the breakaway riders.
Got to work hard to hang on to a minute, though, I think. Dijkman looks really up for it today for me. He looks really strong, but I wouldn't put anything past André Grifko here, because Grifko's been looking strong most of the time, and he is a canny rider. The intermediate sprint today is at Pontecchio Marconi, as you can see. Just under 156 kilometers, 23k to go in from the Mondargino to the finish, and it's about 2.3k the climb today, and just a really nasty hard dig up towards the finish, Sean, with a really sort of super steep section right in the middle.
Yes, well, with a kilometre to go, it's really steep, 16%. So
that is really steep.
It's a real wall in the middle, and the climb itself, it's also that average around the 12% in a lot of places. So it's certainly, I think, a very, very difficult. It's going to be a really tester, and position is going to be so important here, because with 2 kilometres from the finish, as you said, 2.3 kilometres, you have to be really up there in the top 10 riders as you go on to this the final run into the finish. And
the last 2.3 kilometres, well, it looks, if you've ever been up this finish, it doesn't look too bad to start with, but then at just over about 1,300 metres from the finish is a horrible, nasty little kick, and that is the point where it ramps up to 16%. So the real dig will come at that particular point, about 1,300 metres out.
Yes, well, of course, that real wall of a section is going to be very, very difficult, and the road is not huge wide. It's quite a tight road as well, so that's going to make it more difficult, because to move up, if you're a little bit behind, is going to be majorly difficult. So the positioning as you go on to the climb, that'll be very important. And as we know, Di Luca, he's able to do that very well, because he's a classic style of rider, a punchy rider, and he certainly will be in the top 4 or 5 as we go on to that final climb of the day.
Di Luca lying 4th at the moment. 6th back in this line is Denis Menchov, Maglia Rosa, the leader of this year's Giro d'Italia. Will he be able to hang on to it today is the big question. Well, if they can, if the LPR boys do their job and cut down the gap to our 11 remaining breakaway riders. There's the intermediate sprint result. It has no bearing really on the champions, on the leader board for that. If the LPRs can do their job and track down the remaining 11 boys, then we might be set up for a grandstand finish with Di Luca trying to take another stage win to add to his total in the Giro d'Italia of 8. And also take that jersey back, at least get the 20 seconds. 1:53 is the gap as they go through the sprint point. We just saw a picture of Lance Armstrong and his brightly decorated bike. Astana keeping everybody up towards the front. He said he's going to take over the role of Chris Horner. Now that Horner has had to retire from the Giro d'Italia with some sort of muscle strain behind the knee following a crash the other day. And he's taking over that sort of super domestique role in the hills for Levi Leipheimer. Johan Brunel handing out the Cokes. Nice to have a bit of a change for something to drink. Bottles as well. And interesting, you don't often see Armstrong going back and getting water for other people, which he will be doing in a minute. Just taking a quick swig of the Coke and now getting everything on board. There was somebody actually writing into cycling.eurosport@yahoo.com saying, come on, lay off Lance, give him a better time, better ride than you're giving him. I think we've been quite fair to him, actually, Sean. I think he's really coming into shape, and he's beginning to look like the Lance of old. And I think anybody who dismisses him for at least being a player in the Tour de France has got another thing coming, really.
Yes, well, it certainly looks that way now. And the last number of days, he's really, improved and been very active in the race. And it's looking good for the Tour, because at this moment, the shape he's got, I think he could be quite competitive in the Tour. And it's interesting. It's nice to see that he can come back after being out for that period, and going back and getting the fresh drinks. It's something new to see, but it's great to be able to see a big champion like that. Can go and do that. It's magnificent to see.
It is. Do you think, Sean? I mean, it's just an off-the-cuff question. Do you? Apparently, the race radio is saying that people are allowed to be taking liquids on board until 10 kilometres to go because of the heat out there today. But do you think it's difficult for a rider like Lance, who spent most of his time up the front of a peloton during the last sort of 10 years or so, not having to go back and come through the peloton and make his way back into the head of the race again? Is it difficult to get used to it again if you spent so long away from it?
No, not really, because he's a very good bike handler, and you can do that so well. Although he has always on the front of the bunch during the Tour de France, but certainly he can ride in the bunch as well and move up and down with relative ease. He's always been very good with his bike handling, and in the classics we've seen him as well. I think if he really had concentrated during these great years for the classics, he could have done very well. But of course, everything for the Tour de France, and he's just a great all-rounder. His bike handling is as good as any of the big riders. Maybe not prepared to take the risk as some other ones would, but his bike handling, I would have no concern whatsoever.
There was some debate, wasn't it, that one of the reasons he fell and had a collarbone break was that he was struggling a little bit to get form, and he wasn't used to being somewhere in the middle of the peloton all the time when things happen. Do you think that particular argument has any credence? Well,
of course, in the middle of the peloton, it's always a little bit more dangerous the further back you go, but you cannot always ride on the front of the bunch in every race. And I think when Lance was preparing for his Tour de France, when he made some preparation races like the Dauphiné and the earlier ones when he did the Tour of Algarve, for example, I think there was a lot of times where he was also riding in the middle of the bunch. It's just that the wrong place at the wrong time, and people say, well, it's because he's not used to being in the bunch and maybe suffering a bit. Sometimes that is the problem, but I don't think that was the case. It's just one of these crashes, these unlucky crashes, and he was just at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Tom Stamschneider is the very tall Rabobank rider in front of Dennis Menchov. He's just shared a bit of a bottle with him. A lot of these guys are just obviously taking on water because you can see them spraying themselves to keep cool. It really is pretty warm here. Summer is definitely coming. They keep two sections of drinks in the back of the cars. There's obviously the energy drinks or any sort of drink that they put in a bottle, and then they do keep fresh water as well. So that's what they're spraying over. not spraying themselves with sticky energy drinks. Gabriele Bossiccio, never see him in anything other than the Giro d'Italia on our big screens anyway. But for the last 2 or 3 years, had a fantastic performance.
Yes, he's a great performance. And last year, you know, he was, you know, very impressive. And this year, he's just riding so much on the front. We've seen him there for, you know, many days, and a huge amount on the front, and just, you know, in certainly in top form. And I suppose he's one of the men with Di Luca in the LPR team. They know he has to prepare for the Tour of Italy. It's such an important event as a domestique for him in that role, and certainly he's got it right in the past years, where he just comes into really good shape at the right moment.
Alessandro Donati was the rider from Acqua Sapone. He's just gone right the way around the front of the LPR boys and then back into the other side of the peloton, presumably looking for Stefano Garzelli to make sure he was there. Garzelli, well, Garzelli could do something today. I don't think he's going to be that bothered, but it's the sort of finish that could perhaps suit him.
Yes, certainly he can do that also, and of course today he's had an easy ride. A number of days ago he was out front for so long, and certainly, you know, was really tired in the end, and it's normal. But as we see the gap here, 2:30, and it's going up, and I think you know, it's not going to be caught, this breakaway, and it's certainly the opportunity for those to contest the sprint.
Sprint being a relative term in this case.
2 kilometre sprint.
Definitely. Well, 11 riders still in this breakaway, and it looks increasingly like they're not going to be caught today. It's Guillaume Bonifant of the AG2R squad. Just coming through to the front there is Rubens Bertogliati out for Dicky Giovanni. Just gone off the front is Philip Dignan of Cervelo Testing. This is Simon Gerrans, the Australian Tour stage winner. He's won the Tour Down Under. And a very fine rider, very class, punchy rider. There's Thomas Vaucler on the back, former French champion, still in this race. Still featuring now and again when it comes to a bit of a punchy attack, but looking like he's just content to follow the wheels today. Gianpaolo Truella, there he is at the back now, 36 for Barlow World. So having been taken back by the peloton, he's just hanging on in there at the back and keeping himself safe, as is Giovanni Visconti, who's just gone through our shot as well. Well, obviously Garzelli has something in mind. We can see that Donati, the big tall rider, on the front now. The man at the back is Codol. And then the green jersey of the mountains classification leader, Stefano Garzelli. They're setting something up, as you say, Sean. He's had an easy ride today. LPR have done all the work. May have a little spring in his step.
Well, certainly, I think he should have, and he's, you know, been riding very well, very aggressive, and certainly, you know, today would have been an easier day considering what we've seen him being out in the breakaway and out alone for a long time. I think he should be certainly there up at the finish, but. Of course, for him, the general classement, he's, you know, quite a bit further down, and the stage victory would have been, you know, an opportunity for him if we had this break pulled back. But, you know, it's not going to happen now, because over 2 minutes, they're certainly going to go on and hold on out there. But it's still going to be a big battle for the general classement. The real top men in the general classement are going to have really fight here to stay, you know, in contention. And Di Luca, I think, is certainly the danger man, and they all know that he's going to really try and pull back some time here.
Only 6 kilometers to go then for our remaining breakaway riders, so it's going to be two races now within one. There is the race for the stage victory amongst our breakaway riders, who we are now hoping, or we're now saying, that they will stay out there. They had over 2 minutes of a gap over everybody else. And then there's all the others who want to make sure that they stay in contention with the top guys. You could lose a big bunch of seconds here, Sean, 10, 15, 20 seconds.
Yes,
easily.
Very easily you could lose the 20 seconds, and you know, it's the positioning now going on to the final line. That's very important, because if you could go back in 20th, 30th position, you know, you're going to have a long struggle to move up, and the narrow road as well is not going to help the situation. So certainly in the top 5 if possible, and not outside the top 10. You have to be in there, and still, if you're struggling, you could lose 20, 30 seconds very easily.
Gerrans and Dignan discussing a little bit of what they're going to be doing. They've got about 5.5 kilometers to go, just over 5 kilometers to go until the finish. So remember, 3K then, or just under, till they get to the hill. These are the remaining riders: Bonifant, Gerrans, Froome, Kirienka, Dijkman, Grifko. Gavazzi isn't in there. Reda, Bertoliati, Petrov, and Voganov. We've seen they had Visconti up there as well, didn't we? Gavazzi is in there. It's going to be just as exciting to see what the positioning is when they get to the bottom of the hill for our breakaway riders as well, and see if they have a look at each other or whether they just go straight for it. But when we go back to the peloton, you'll see all the big teams are amassing at the front. Cervelo were taking the guys towards the front, taking Sastre towards the front. Liquigas there for Pellizotti and Basso, and now here, Sean. Presumably, is there any advantage in having two men in this breakaway now?
No, not really in this finish, because with the such a difficult finish, this final 2 kilometers, and it looks like they're all going to go to the bottom of the climb leading to the finish together, and it's all about, you know, the best man, the strongest man, you know, can do the damage here. If it was a flat run in, we'd see the usual, a lot of attacks, but you know, we're seeing it here now at the moment. They're going to start attacking each other, but I don't think they're going to put enough of an advantage, maybe, you know, for a guy to hold out in front.
This is Andrei Grifko. 4 kilometers for Andrei Grifko till the finish, so about 1 kilometer and 1.7 kilometers till we hit the bottom of the hill. He's not getting much of an advantage. They won't let him get too far away. He can go up hills reasonably, but I think it's just a little bit too steep for Andrei Grifko. He's trying for his own win though, and ISD would dearly, dearly love that. 5 kilometers then to go for the peloton as Liquigas take up the pace setting on the front. Well, of that group at the the breakaway group, Dequi Giovanni, of course, have had a stage victory through Michele Scarponi. Swag. A lot of riders really don't like that at all, do they, Sean? Some like it, some don't.
No, certainly not. And you know, when you're going really fast there, it's not nice to get the water in your face, and I don't think the riders will appreciate that.
Dequi Giovanni have taken a stage victory, but all the rest would like to do so. None for AG2R or Barlowo, Case de Pagne, Lampre, Quick Step, Cervelo have 2 chances in here, and ISD would definitely like to do something. Katusha, well, they've had a pretty poor Giro d'Italia so far by their standards and their huge budget standards. They very, very much like to do something. Petrov, well, I'm not sure whether Petrov has got the ability. There's Daniel Lloyd of Great Britain, 3rd in this line, dragging things along to keep the pace high for Carlos Sastre. Well, Sastre feels perhaps he can launch a little bit of an attack on this hill, Sean. That's certainly what he's laying down the marker for.
Well, certainly it's you know, a place where you have to be in the front, and then you see what, you know, what's happening. Sastre, you know, being taken up by 3 teammates from the Cervelo team. Very important here just to get onto the climb in that top 5-10 riders, and they seem to be doing a good job. They, you know, just have to keep it going and to really set Sastre in a good position as we go on to the final 2Ks. As
here we go. Here we go. Andrei Grifko hits the what's going to be the wall, and immediately starts pushing that right-hand lever on his SRAM red kit over and over and over. If you push it across and it clicks twice, you're getting into a lower gear, and that's what he's done. We've just seen him do about 4 or 5 times. Now they're pulling along as hard as possible, and Grifko is laboring already by himself. How close are they behind? And they just caught him straight away. It's Rubens Bertoliati at the front here, digging in as much as he can with Christopher Froome, the Kenyan, now British rider. Behind, just behind that is, looks like Gerrans, in fact. Whoops. That'll be interesting to be able to see what's going on. This still gets really, really tough in the middle. Bertoliati digging in. I don't think he's got the ability to continue going. I think he knew he had to go at it quite hard. But behind, there's a second race going on here, Sean, now, isn't there, to see that they're all positioned in the right place for the foot of this hill.
Yes, there's certainly a lot of positioning going on here, and it's we can see it here, a lot of movement in the bunch. So, you know, it's certainly, you know, very important, a very, you know, tense and nervous time back in the bunch as it is up here front. Also for this breakaway, because, you know, it's certainly going to get more difficult, as we talked about with that 1,200 metres before the finish. That's where I think we will see the breakaway really split into pieces.
2 kilometres then for the Peloton. Will have the breakaway got enough? In fact, there's some huge amount of work has been done by 3 or 4 teams on the front. It's Chris Froome and Simon Gerrans, the Brit and the Australian, piling the pressure on at the front here. And there's a whole host of riders across the road here. Look at Danilo Di Luca with Mick Rogers behind him. Gavazzi gritting his Gazzelli gritting his teeth on the shoulders of Mick Rogers. Gerrans just he's trying to force Chris Froome to come through and do some work. I don't think he's got it in the legs, Chris Froome. Gerrans is going to have to go for this himself, I think, as Armstrong moves up towards the front. On the far right-hand side, it's Arroyo. David Arroyo looks across to Stefano Gazzelli. Basso and Pellizotti are both in this group. Leipheimer is in this front group as well. Menchov just shadowing people at the moment. Jackson Rodriguez is the rider from Dequi Giovanni. Froome is just hanging in there. Gerrans is spinning a lighter gear, and Froome is having real trouble hanging in there. Gerrans is going to kick again in a minute, Sean, I'm sure of it.
Yes, well, Gerrans is certainly looking the most comfortable at the moment, but you know, depending on the rider's style as well. Sometimes the rider looks like he's really in trouble, but Gerrans seems to be, you know, turning a lighter gear there, and certainly looks the strongest of the two in front.
Paolo Tirolongo, I think, has gone with, it looks like Francesco Maschirelli just behind him. Gerrans digs in hard. Froome, the legs are going. Chris Froome, he's beginning to wobble about all over the road. He's trying to dig as hard as possible. Gerrans is going to go, trying to go for his second Grand Tour stage victory, grinding it out. There's nothing short of courage in this man's attacking style. Oh, Froome's all over the place with just 1 kilometre to go, weaving from side to side. Simon Gerrans is going for this stage victory today. Here's Paolo Tirolongo. He's not going to make it across, I don't think. He turns the corner. We've just seen Froome and Gerrans go through. It looks to me, Sean, as though the Australian is going to take another Grand Tour victory. He's looking behind him to see if anybody's close to him. He's got to be careful he doesn't get knocked off by these guys now.
Yes, he looks very comfortable, actually, and it's amazing the way Gerrans is just turning the gear there. We see Froome, who was really struggling, looked to be in too much of a bigger gear, actually, too high a gear.
Did look like he was grinding away, and then all of a sudden wobbling across the road. Paolo Tirolongo digs in. He's not got too much of an advantage. It is Francesco Maschirelli, I think, behind. He's been riding really well. He's the more talented of the Maschirelli brothers. Gerrans has got this one in the bag, Sean. A terrifically timed attack. Gerrans is going to take his second Grand Tour stage victory. One in the Tour de France last year and one this year in the Giro. Now Danilo Di Luca wants to put some seconds into his rivals. He's got Gazzelli on his wheel. Obviously still thinks he could do something. There's Maschirelli just being taken back, and right on the shoulder is Pellizotti, on the shoulder of Dennis Menchov. Di Luca digging hard. They're under the 1 kilometre to go banner. Gazzelli looks as though he's got really struggling now. 500 metres for Simon Gerrans.
And Leipheimer also losing a little bit of contact there. We can see him maybe, you know, 15-20 metres off the group of Di Luca.
There he is with Ivan Basso right next to him. Gerrans holding a remarkably straight line, just pounding out the rhythm. The Australian, who has been coming around, he lost out in a Grand Tour victory to Paolo Salvoldelli a number of years ago, just outgunned at the end. The first time we saw him going for a stage victory, he's become a very attacking rider. He took a stage victory finally last year in the Tour de France when it came to Italy. Now Di Luca's looking over his shoulder. He's going to win another one today. Di Luca's looking back to see what damage he's done, Sean. Yes. Gosh, that's confidence.
Yes, certainly he's looking around there, but he, he's not getting into the main danger men. But he's, he has to keep on working because, as we see, some of the big favourites and Leipheimer certainly, in problems here.
Simon Gerrans into the last 100 metres. Cervelo test team are going to take their first Grand Tour stage victory. And well done, sir. Gerrans takes it. And a wonderfully timed attack as well. These are the main friends. Basso and Leipheimer have got up to this group again now. Di Luca is not... there's Rubens Bertogliati coming over the line. He's not got rid of anybody, Sean. They're all still there. For some reason, he didn't manage to press home the advantage on Leipheimer and Basso there. Here they are. Still, there comes Philip Dijkman over the line. 30 seconds or so. Guillaume Bonnefond just being swept up. Christopher Froome, my word, he's suffered, hasn't he? Who is going to launch an attack from here? And it's Franco Pellizotti. Pellizotti wants to try and put some damage over on everybody else. Pellizotti, with Di Luca looking comfortable in his wheel at the moment. Garzelli still gritting his teeth here. Pellizotti having a go at shedding some people. And there's only 5 riders there. Pellizotti. And Basso is out of it. That's more to the point. Pellizotti comes over and he's put more seconds into Leipheimer and to Basso, his teammate. Surely the question must be over now as to who's that team captain.
Well, I think there's only maybe 4 or 5 seconds of an advantage of a time lost by Basso and Leipheimer, and certainly they were under pressure. They lost contact a bit earlier, and it'll be interesting to see in the next days who's going to be the man, the leader of the Liquigas team.
So Franco Pellizotti is the man amongst the favourites who launches a dig to try and shed everybody else. He got rid of 4 or 5 seconds into Leipheimer. Leipheimer is beginning to look, when the hills go up, as though he's having a little bit of trouble if it gets steep. Di Luca looked very comfortable, though.
Yes, well, certainly looked very comfortable, and but surprisingly, just wasn't there to shake up the main rivals. Went in the attack there, but Pellizotti, Menchov, certainly made to match him, and I think it's an occasion missed. It will be disappointing for Di Luca not to take some time here from the other big favourites.
Well, losing a fair amount of time to the others, Lance Armstrong, but not to worry about that. He had to do his job today. Fetching and carrying water. But Leipheimer a little bit under pressure, I think, now. And let's just go through the results for today first. Gerrans, Bertogliati, Gavazzi, Petrov, Dijkman, good result for him, 5th. Chris Froome, 6th. Kirienka, 7th. Grifko, Pellizotti, the best of the favourites, 104, with Di Luca, Garzelli and Menchov. Sastre, Bruzigin up there. And then a gap back, 3 seconds, in fact, to Basso and Leipheimer. Scarponi right up there. Arroyo still hanging in, and Mick Rogers as well. 3 kilometres to the top here. From the lead men, Pinotti has been dropped out of that group, we were saying. That's Valiero Agnoli, who looked like he was hanging on for grim death anyway, as Thomas Lundqvist tried desperately to move him silently out of the way without causing any problems. Marco Manzano still hanging in there. Pinotti has finally got to his limit and dropped off the back. Bertognoli's pressure absolutely telling. Now this is interesting. We've got Alessandro Donetti. Now he's been hanging back. He was part of that breakaway group. He was there first of all to try and take away points from Andrei Grifko in the mountains classification, but of course now there's an Aquasaponi rider up the road. Garzelli's going to make as much use of him as possible, and Basso will be thankful of that. It's Pablo Lastras is the other man behind. Well, are we going to see a situation at any point here, Sean, where Franco Pellizotti is going to try and close the gap on his own teammate?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult because we're getting very close to the top of this climb, and you know, it will be the place to do it on the climb. And as we've seen there, when Sastre just turned it up a little bit, riders having difficulty in following. I think if Pellizotti was really feeling good, he might try and you know, do something here and test the other riders. But the gap, of course, out to Basso is, you know, it's quite a big advantage. It's, you know, well over the minute, and that's difficult to bridge on your own. So I think he's just going to wait and play the game of, you know, the card of Basso for today.
Well, this has been the big debate in one of the big debates. Is Manzano is starting to suffer now. Bonnoli still pushing on with Serge Pauls in his wheel. Great ride by Serge Pauls once again. Good ride by Bonnoli. One of the big criticisms, or one of the big debates in Italy has been who should be the team leader. Is it Pellizotti or is it Basso? Well, Basso's gone up the road today. Of course, they're playing the old 1-2, trying to get the sucker punch on everybody else. But but sometimes in these situations you see a teammate who's not happy with another teammate, and they'll shut them down. I was just wondering whether that situation may occur where Pellizotti thinks, I'm not having this, I am the team leader. But he's not that sort of rider, really. He's not that sort of a super aggressive character, Sean. Some people would do that, wouldn't they? They wouldn't want to see their main rival go up the road, so they would try and shut them down themselves.
Well, yeah, sometimes we have we've seen that in the past, but it's pretty rare. I think you know, you allow your teammate to stay up the road, and of course it's suiting Pellizotti here because it's the other ones who have got to ride here, and it's going to put Basso back in a very dangerous position. He's going to move up in the general classement. That makes it better for Pellizotti because then you know, the Menchov, Di Luca, Leipheimer, they all have to, you know, two riders to watch from the same team, and it's very comfortable in the difficult stages when you have a teammate with you there that he can go in the attack, and you know that you can just follow the others and it's up to them to do the chasing.
This is a second category climb, the Monte Trebbio, but I'll tell you what, it's a real tough one.
Yes, it certainly is. It's while the percentages, you know, it kicks up quite steep in a lot of sections, and it's just a day as well. It's been a very, you know, very demanding day, an energy-sapping day. The weather as well, really, really warm, and we can see the riders there. You know, they're getting water and throwing it over their face. Certainly, you know, it's really dehydrating out there today, and we're in the stage of the race as well, going into the third week. You know, riders starting to get tired, and when you have a difficult stage like today, well then you're going to see, you know, even the big favourites suffering.
The lead from the head of the race was Serge Pauls and Bonnoli back to the pink jersey group 324. As you can see, there's Tadej Valjevec still hanging in there. Valjevec is having a very good Giro d'Italia, just quietly. Look at Lundqvist coming onto the front now. Just quietly plugging away, Valjevec. They'll be pleased to see that. AG2 up. Pellizotti looks not that comfortable, to be honest, sitting behind Di Luca, who looks like he's beginning to really feel the heat here. You can see, like as I said before, just like Lance Armstrong, is that sunken-eyed look when he starts to get really tired, does Danilo Di Luca, and it's looking that way at the moment. Garzelli, he's having the most spectacular Giro d'Italia, considering he had one bad day in the big mountains early on where it just blew him to pieces. He's gradually worked his way up. Started the day today 13th spot overall, 7:15 down. If he goes at this rate, he'll work his way into the top 10.
Yes, well, certainly he's really, you know, doing a magnificent job. From the very beginning, I think it was the first mountain day, about the third or fourth day into the race, he lost that very valuable time on a mountaintop finish. And from there on out, he's been just, you know, gradually moving up, getting into breaks and being alone out there in a long breakaway on a very difficult day. Certainly, you know, he's getting into form and, you know, being very consistent in this race.
Lundqvist now setting the pace on this group. Mick Rogers is their big hope in here, lying 7th overall. But remember, Lundqvist lying 11th overall as well. He's done well to get back up to this group, which seems to suggest, Sean, that they're not firing on. Well, they've not put the turbo boost in yet. Here, I think everybody's just absolutely knackered. They haven't got anything left to do to give an attack. The only man who's really put a dig in since the Liquigas boys took up the cudgel is Carlos Sastre, but I think they've just had enough at the moment in that group. Just going to keep it going.
Yes, well, certainly, we see Lundqvist riding there, and he's come from behind, but maybe he just got caught out a bit, because when the Liquigas went in the attack, it took a lot of riders by surprise and a lot of groups on the road, and maybe he was just in the wrong place just at that time, and it always takes quite a bit of an effort to move up, but Lundqvist seems to be very comfortable here, because if you start making the pace with riders like Menchov, Di Luca, it tells you that you have to be feeling well, because otherwise he would play the waiting game. And Lundqvist, of course, he's in the general classement. Simeoni is ahead of him. Basso is ahead of him. I can't see in the general classement who's the real danger at the moment. And the young jersey classement, of course, we see that earlier on. Sealsray, he was doing the riding before Lundqvist got back into this group. I think that's what he's really concerned about, but that's not any danger at the moment.
Over the top then of the Trebbio, and Marco Manzano is beginning to eat up that disadvantage that those two riders had put into him. You can see the clock ticking away now. So Manzano just about to rejoin Pauls and Bertagnoli. Only 26 kilometers down the other side of Monte Trebbio, but it's not a straight descent. It's a little up and down, a little bit of a false flat in the middle before they plunge down for the last about 6 kilometers or so, a little bit more on the flat. Well, he's got 10 seconds to make up as Marco Manzano. Back then with Ivan Basso, who's picked up Andrei Grifko, and there is Jose Serpa. 25 to go for our leading two men. Oh no, Marco Manzano has had a mechanical problem just as he's getting on the back of those two lead riders. He's got to wait to have, I think, a bike change. Actually looks like a chain problem, or sounds like a chain problem. And Garzelli setting the pace again. Serpa does tend to churn a fairly big gear on the hills, Shawnee. We've always noticed this, one sprocket more than everybody else.
Yes, certainly for a rider, that's the style of rider he is. You would expect him to be turning a little lighter gear, but certainly, he's the cadence is a bit high there for a rider who is a good climber. But there's all the climbers, are not really, they haven't got that great rhythm. But certainly, the majority would be a little bit more lighter on the gears.
Good day for Grifko. But even so, you can see that there's no way that Stefano Garzelli was going to give one over to Andrei Grifko. Grifko's gone out today to try and get as many points in the mountains classification as possible. This is second category climb. We've already had 3 men go over the top. Grifko, look, trying to get up there ahead of Garzelli, and now they're going to race each other to the top. Well, he's laying down the marker, Sean. He's not going to lay down and die to Garzelli.
No, certainly not. He's going to pick up the points here.
Oh,
You see Di Luca going into the attack.
Di Luca shoots out of that group. Real explosive power. And he's got to be shut down, because he's going to go down the other side like a rocket. That's what he's aiming for. And it's response straight away. Looks like Menchov, who's immediately decided that's far too dangerous to let something go away. Real explosion of power from Danilo Di Luca. Can he keep it up there? That's the main thing, and it's Carlos Sastre once again who's putting in the effort to try and bring things back, as Daniel Navarro is caught and passed by a flying Danilo Di Luca. Menchov looking good. They responded very quickly and very well to that.
Yes, certainly did come across with relative ease, and you certainly cannot hang about here. When Di Luca goes, you have to immediately go with him and in the wheel. And I think Menchov will be a little bit concerned about the descent, because we talked about this one. It is very, very technical and very narrow, so not the best place for Menchov. And Di Luca is really going to push it on here, as we see Sastre coming across to join them.
Gosh, that's a huge gap. Look at that. That's a massive gap they've got. What a terrific attack by Danilo Di Luca. The 3 of them gone away, and Pellizotti thinking enough's enough. I've got to get across to this one, but really putting a massive dig in. Danilo Di Luca. Di Luca, the best of the descenders there. Certainly. Pellizotti just about the second best. And behind them, Menchov, as you say, Sean, not actually very happy on these technical ascents. Neither is Sastre.
Well, I think
not as much, anyway.
Of the two, I think yes, Menchov would be the one who I'd be concerned a bit more about. And of course, we have this little section now where it goes down and then it kicks up a little bit again, so it doesn't go down and plunge down immediately. But as we go further on, it is a little bit more technical, a little bit more narrow, and Menchov, could be under a bit of pressure. But if you allow Di Luca to do just the riding here, he will be getting tired also, and his ascent won't be as explosive as if it had went down immediately, because when you attack just at the top and it's downhill immediately, you can do a lot of damage.
These are our two lead men there. You can see why they say it's dangerous here, can't you? Although there is new tarmac been put down on it. It's very narrow indeed. Lots of twists and turns, an Armco barrier. This man's looking good for me. Serge Pauls is looking very, very good. Leonardo Bertognoli's done a lot of the work. And now Serge Pauls is trying to emulate Simon Gerrans and take another victory for Cervelo, as once again the attacks keep coming. Welcome back. That was our last commercial break. We're with the action right the way through to the end. The Di Luca attack has been brought back again. This is a little bit further down the hill, with looks like Jaroslav Popovic dragging along Lance Armstrong, Damiano Cunego as well. Bertognoli and Pauls are still ahead. 1 minute is back Pinotti. One minute back to the next group of riders. These two guys have a good lead at the moment. 3:20 back to the pink jersey group. And they look as though they're setting themselves up reasonably well in the last 20 kilometers, Sean. It's going to be very, very difficult for them, but there's still a glimmer of hope for our two lead riders.
Yes, well, certainly, we see the gap there around a minute, I think, back to the Basso group here. Certainly, up front, it looks like they're going along at a very good rate. Bertognoli riding very strong, and I think, Pauls, when we get over this little last section where it kicks up a bit, he will start to ride as well. He's, a little bit afraid of Bertognoli because he seems to be the stronger one on the climb. So for Pauls, he will be aware, and once he get over this difficulty, it's pretty much downhill and then the flat section to the finish. And I think he will also, really ride with Bertognoli, and they should be able to hold on, depending on what way Basso, Garzelli and the rest here pull it together. It's looking good for the two out front.
Serge Pauls, a former Chocolata Jack rider, rather overlooked for a while, and didn't have a good 2008 at all. This is the group of Andre Grifko, Jose Serpa, Stefano Garzelli and Ivan Basso. The group, well, they have, what, 38 seconds back to the pink jersey group. So luckily the pink jersey, well, the attacks that have come on from Danilo Di Luca have spurred the pink jersey group on a little more. They've cut the gap down to Basso's group, and I'm sure Di Luca will be pleased about that.
Yes, well, certainly he will be very, very pleased, because he's the one who's, up the pace and attacked. And is this Pauls here?
Yeah, this is Pauls shaking his head and looking over his shoulder and talking into his radio. Now, what on earth is going on? A problem? Has he got a technical problem here?
Has to be.
He has to be. I can't see why on earth he would be just wheeling his way down here. He's got to be waiting for something, because Bertognoli is going out by himself at the moment. Let's have a look. If we get the replay, we haven't seen what's going on here at the moment. Or did he get caught up in something? Bertognoli takes this bend, comes out the other side. Serge Pauls just looking behind and sits up.
and also Bonnoli seems to be looking about here. We can see the melted tar on the corners there, and they're really taking it careful here. And of course, it is very dangerous with the tar. When it's melted, you can slide off so easy. But both of them seem to be looking back at the moment, and surprising, because the last time check, was it a minute back to Basso?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a minute back.
So it's still a big advantage, and I'm surprised they're not really getting to work here. And now they're into the section where they could certainly hold on with that advantage.
My only guess, Sean, is that they've actually seen something happen behind them, and it's made the two of them sit up perhaps a little bit. Maybe they saw a motorcycle or something having a little bit of difficulty on that slippery tarmac as well. Who knows? But Powell seems to be back on it again now, but he's definitely communicating with the rest of them. It's the first time in the Giro for Serge Powell, as I say, a former Chocolata Jack rider, and they both of them are still looking up across the bend to see what's happening. Most perplexing. Well, I'm sure we'll find out at some point. The next group on the road is this group here: Ivan Basso, Stefano Garzelli, Jose Serpa, and Andre Grifko. Marco Manzano, I think, well, Marco Manzano was in the middle, but he had a technical problem. Had a problem with the chain, whether he'd snapped the chain or it got wedged in somewhere between the sprockets or the chain rings. I don't know. They doesn't seem to be bothering these guys, Sean, the tarmac. Bertognoli now going for it, and Paul's chasing him as well. Paul's a good descender because he doesn't seem to be going great guns at it, and he's or wasn't going great guns at it, and making up ground on Bertognoli. 15 to go for our lead riders.
And of course they're still outside that zone for the fresh drinks. Maybe they're looking for the cars to come, and looking for fresh bottles, because as you get to the 10 kilometers, then it's over. And the way they were looking, behind there, it seems like they're looking, for the team cars to get up there.
It's also possible, of course, but it's such a difficult and technical descent here. Look, what's happened here? Ooh, taking it very, very wide indeed. Was that Arroyo, I think? Or maybe it could have been Lastras. And Lastras is a very good descender. Grifko on the back of this little group here, and it's Garzelli flying down the other side. Basso trying to stay with him, and then Serpa, then Grifko. You've got to be careful here. Well, our lead riders, the clock in the corner ticking down to the pink jersey group. There's 1 minute from Bertognoli and Powers back to the Basso group. That's going to be coming down fairly shortly, I would think, because Garzelli is pulling them down pretty quick here. There's still Lars back in the middle of these groups. And Pinotti has also the Lars back, and Marco Pinotti have picked up Marco Manzano now. Well, this is it. The cars come up to them, but they're having a bit of a debate here, Sean, as to what they should be doing.
Yes, there seems to be a little bit of discussion going on, and is there a tactic here? Yeah, it's difficult to see, because they're in the position they are. You'd expect them to just keep it going, but Powers is still looking back.
He's still waiting for something, and I don't understand at all. $15 to go for a group of main favourites, with Leonardo Bertognoli driving on by himself now. Bertognoli not looking in as good a shape as Powell's. Powell's was descending quite easily, and he's not lost touch with Bertognoli despite having to talk to the team car. Surely they can't be waiting to do something with Carlos Sastre behind. I mean, he's with a group of other favourites, unless Powell's is being told to sit and wait and make sure he can be protected for some reason.
No, I don't see the reason. He has to wait for Sastre here. He's in a position, where they're still out there and in a position to go for the stage victory. And as you said, Powers looks to be quite strong. Bertognoli, he's ploughed along here, but seems to be suffering also. And I just can't understand why, if he is being asked to wait back for that group of his teammate. You know, it's a surprising one.
It's a very strange, extremely strange tactic if that is going to be the case. But Serge Pauls is certainly sat up. He's waited for the car to come down. There's some sort of discussion going on. Well, maybe we'll see him back on it again in a minute. Whoa, what a twist and turn at the end of this stage of the Giro d'Italia. This is the group with Lance Armstrong in, descending. What is going on, Sean? Now Garzelli and Basso are sitting up looking at each other. Maybe they realise that these guys are just going to bear down on them pretty quickly.
Yes,
that's more likely.
I think, yes, they realise that this the group of Di Luca and Menchov are just, you know, on the way of closing it down here, and they're just not going to persist with riding out front. And the big question is for, you know, why is Powers? And this is a situation now where they have the advantage out front. If they can just keep on working together, you know, they certainly could go on and go for the stage victory here.
So Basso, Serpa, Garzelli and Grifko sit up, and through comes the group of Di Luca, Menchov, Sastre, and they'll have to get back onto the back of this straight away. Pellizotti goes through. Garzelli just waiting to find somewhere to slip in. Tadej Valivet's still in this group as well. Alessandro Donetti is the man at the back. There's Lance Armstrong and Jaroslav Popovic in here, and the other man I think is Damiano. Is it Damiano Cunego? I don't think it is. Is it?
Yes.
Looks very small. Still some way to go for these guys to make up the gap. But Leonardo Bertagnoli out by himself now. Now the question is, where is the Belgian rider Serge Pauls? Looking in better shape, and definitely having a heartfelt debate with the team car.
It had to be just mechanical, something wrong with the bike, and but you know, the surprise is that with him being up there on the brake, that there would be a bike, you know, transferred to the car. It's the second car, of course. You know, we see it was the other director sportif, and if you get into a brake that looks like it's going to go all the way, well, then immediately you make a bike change and you take it from number one service car. But maybe they just hadn't done that, and that's just, you know, surprising. That you know, I don't see any reason for him waiting here, looking back to look at Sastre. So maybe it's just something problem with the bike and waiting, trying to get the other team car to get up here.
Seconds ticking away for Serge Pauls. We just simply don't know what happened to him. Leonardo Bertagnoli with 10 kilometers to go. He's got his head down. He hasn't got anybody to work with. A big disadvantage for this man at the moment.
Yes, certainly a big disadvantage now. And you know, we see the group pulling back. Basso and Garzelli, they're certainly going to, you know, really cover this last 10 kilometers from the group of Di Luca very fast. And a one man out on his own, being out there for a long time today. The stage, you know, very, very energy sapping, and certainly, you know, without Powers up here, it's going to, you know, be touch and go for Bertagnoli.
Well, he had a ding-dong battle with Thomas Decker a number of years ago in Torino Adriatico, the man from Trento. But now he's just got to ride as best as he can with Pablo Lastras on the front of this group here. 44 seconds from Bertagnoli to back is what we're getting as a race radio time check, which has completely left out Serge Pauls in the middle. Ooh, that's a bit sick-making. 1 minute back to Manzano and Pinotti as we gather. Leonardo Bertagnoli trying to go for a stage victory today here in his home tour. He has had some good wins in his time. He's won the Coppa Agostino, and he's won a stage in Torino Adriatico, of course, but he's also won San Sebastian, remember, a couple of years ago when he was riding for Liquigas, I think it was. And that's not a bad go. So he's won a classic, but he's going for a first Grand Tour stage victory here. And he's going to be hard-pressed to stay out there, I think, now, Sean, because I think these guys are going to really start motoring.
Yes, certainly, and we can see, the group is being put along at a very fast pace by one of the quick step. Facci was doing, a very strong pull on the front, and we can see Bertognoli really suffering here, and it's going to be difficult for him to hold on out there.
He's got 2 minutes and 5 seconds of a gap, but he looks to be suffering a lot more. And remember, it's one against a whole raft of people if they want to start working together here. We simply don't know what's happened to Serge Pauls. He's just disappeared off the radar completely. 10 to go for the Lance Armstrong quartet here. Well, this is real bike racing, isn't it? We've had attack upon attack upon attack by the favourites, just testing each other's legs, seeing who's going to get caught out. The man who has been caught out today of the big favourites was Filippo Simeoni, lying 8th overall this morning. And Bertognoli has 8 to go. This man's really having to work hard to try and get back on those, Sean. Lance Armstrong once again learning what it's like to be chasing all the time.
Yes, well, it's all part of, just getting back into top shape and, just suffering a bit there today. All the big attacks on that final climb, not able to follow. It's just a long road to get back into top shape, and you just got to do it. And he's certainly quite competitive, but just a little bit more to do before he gets into the really good shape. But there's no shortcuts. You just got to do it in this way.
Leonardo Bertognoli is going for his first Grand Tour stage victory, but he looks to me as though he's tiring. The pink jersey group, they're not worried about him. All the main favourites have been swept up, and it's the remnants of the breakaway group that are stuck between this lot and Leonardo Bertognoli that are going to cause the problems for the Italian up at the head of the race. Bertognoli looks to me, Sean, as though he's suffering already, and there are riders behind. Lars Bak, who was at 50 seconds, is now at 38 seconds down. Manzano and Pinotti only at 52 seconds, so he could even be joined by guys from behind. And poor old Leonardo Bertognoli, who's gone for a stage victory today, could be caught by his fellow escapees again and taken back.
Yes, well, certainly it looks like Bak is recovering and just clawing into the advantage of Bertognoli, and I think we will see him coming back. And Pinotti also we could see him, because a very good time trialist, and we're in that terrain now where it's much flatter, and the stronger riders, the more time trial type of riders will certainly be at an advantage. And I think Bertognoli is really suffering here, and I'd not be surprised at all if he get pulled back by some of the original breakaway riders.
I agree. Absolutely. So it's Leonardo Bertognoli with under 8 kilometers to go. He's at the head of the race. Some 38 seconds back is Lars Bak. That looks like Lars Bak there. Where's the gap? Bertognoli and Lars gap. 6K to go for Bertognoli. He rounds the corner, and there's Lars Bak behind him, a lone chase. And then behind that looks like Pinotti. Just behind. So those three are going to join up as well. Bak, Pinotti, and there's 4 in there, in fact. And I think they can work together to bring back. There's Pauls. Serge Pauls is in this group again. Well, this is the most extraordinary turn of events for the Belgian rider, because having just been with Leonardo Bertognoli, unless they suddenly realised that, I have no idea what the problem was. I mean, I was going to say for a minute he thought he was going to get dropped. He'd have to wait for other people, but it's just not going to happen. 4 guys chasing down Leonardo Bertognoli, and now we've got all the groups of the main favourites eating up on those as well. It might end up with a bunch sprint.
Very possible, depending on what way they ride here in this group of the race leader, Menchov, Di Luca, if they really start pulling it on here. We can see at moments they are really at a very fast rate. We can see at the moment they're on a big long line. That tells us the pace is on, but they have to keep on doing that, because the advantage for the leader out in front, Bertognoli, here is it's quite a big advantage back to that group of big favourites. But of course this is the one who we see here with Bak, Pinotti and Pauls. They're certainly he's certainly in the advantage position at the moment, because with 4 chasing here, it's looking more and more like that they could pull him back. I think around 40 seconds is the advantage to our leader at the moment.
I think it might be just even a little bit less. I don't know. Blasbach looks like he's beginning to suffer here as well. So we've got Serge Pauls. We saw how strong he looked. Pauls, Pinotti, Manzano, and Blasbach as they go through the 5 to go.
37 seconds.
47. 37. Pauls is being forced to do all the driving on the front here. They know he's the strongest. Pinotti, I think, will come through and do his bit as well. Pauls is waiting for somebody to come through and do something. Pinotti comes through. Bach is the one who's just sitting here because I think he's the one who's a bit stuffed, quite frankly. And this is the group of the pink jersey. And all looking at each other at the front, I think. I can see one head turning to another and seeing what they want to do. Round the bend of the 6 kilometer mark for Lance Armstrong's group. Leonardo Bertognoli within 5 kilometers of the finish now. He's just got to get his head down. 28 seconds, race radio say, for Bertognoli between the 4 chasing riders. Once again, Sean, you've got to say Powell's the strongest man in the breakaway today, because he's doing a lot of the work tracking down Bertognoli again. Yes,
well, certainly we noticed that when he was with Bertognoli, he seemed to be the stronger one. As we see some of the guys, Grifko is attacking out of the bunch here, but I think the ground they have to make up, time to make up here, is going to be difficult for the that main group of big favourites now to come back to the riders out in front. But certainly for Bertognoli, the chasers, and the question is, Powers, why did he leave Bertognoli go on? He must have had a problem mechanically.
3 kilometers to go then for Leonardo Bertognoli. Pinotti, the national time trial champion of Italy, doing his bit on the front. Serge Pauls, he really knows he's missed out, and he's trying desperately to get back on. Marco Manzano riding the wheel here. Pinotti slips in behind Manzano. He knows that Lars Bach is either sandbagging or he hasn't got it in the legs. I would say he probably hasn't got it in the legs, although there's a definite nip down to the straps there to see if he can tighten them up a little bit. Well, Pauls would be super pleased if he could take this one. Andrei Grifko trying to come across the gap to the 4 men up ahead. Grifko, who's been out in the breakaway today already, taking mountains classification points. 1:45 back from Leonardo Bertognoli. 27 seconds to the riders behind. Well, the big question is, with 2 kilometers to go, are they going to do it, Sean?
No, I don't think it's going to be possible now, because he has enough of an advantage with 2Ks to go, and the riders are going to start looking at each other as well, because you really have to give it 100% on the front, and there's always hesitation. Who rides in the front? They're not going to be able to make a good sprint, and I think we will see that playing now, the tactic wise of the 4 chasers. Nobody want to commit themselves at 100%, and it looks certainly that Bertognoli can hold on.
Well, what a day's racing we've seen today. A terrific day's racing where the breakaway has triumphed once again. And this man, Leonardo Bertognoli, his last big win came in a stage in the Deutschland Tour last year. He won the Trophy Melinda last year. 4 victories in total in 2008. We know he's won a stage in Torino Adriatico. But he won in the Tour de Haute Var, remember, at Draguna. 33 seconds now the gap is, so it's just as Sean predicted. They're beginning to look at each other and not do anything, as it looks like Sildriers is coming up from the main favourites group to try and do something, maybe gain a few more seconds. That'll be the big thing. It's Mauro Facci, in fact, who's having a bit of a go. Under the 1 kilometre to go banner then for Leonardo Bertognoli. Bertognoli, who had looked as though he was going to have such a promising career as a stage race rider, being able to take stages in all sorts of conditions, a good climber, and then had a disastrous year with Liquigas, with 1 victory to his name, but a good one at that. It was the Classica San Sebastian back in 2007. Now riding for Decqua Giovanni. He's come away from the escape group. The 4 men chasing him have not been able to shut down the gap, and he's just kept his head down and gone for it. Leonardo Bertognoli is going to take his first Grand Tour stage victory here into Faenza. His teammate and team captain Filippo Simeoni was the last man to win here back in 2003. On that occasion, he took the pink jersey and held it all the way to the finish of the race. Well, Bertognoli's not going to do that. He's going to take the victory, but not the jersey, of course. He started the day 23 minutes and 32 seconds down, but he knows he's got it in the bag now. It's amazing what he can dig out of the bag in the last kilometre. And the crowd absolutely loving this. A second stage victory then for Decqua Giovanni after Michele Scarponi did something very, very similar. Win for Leonardo Bertognoli. And he's a happy man. And timed it perfectly, aided perhaps by a little bit of bad luck from Serge Pauls. And now they're all looking at each other, as you say. Sean, Pauls has just got to get himself ready. Look, he's taking the brake off that rear wheel.
And we can see Pauls still has a number on his bike, his frame number, and that tells us that he hasn't changed the bike.
Yep.
So, you know, it's still a puzzle to know why he left Bertognoli just go on his own.
Yep, still don't know. We won't know until we have to chat with them afterwards. We'll be straight on the phone to the Director Sportifs to try and find out what's going on. Pauls is now going for the sprint against Manzano. On the left-hand side, Serge Pauls from Belgium takes up the sprint early on. Lars back trying to come back at him, but Pauls clearly the strongest of that group. Pauls, Pinotti, I think, then back, and then Manzano. Here is Andre Grifko. Tried to move across to that gap, didn't make it. But once again, very active, the ISD rider. Has taken some mountains classification points against Stefano Garzelli. Now the question is, will any of the favourites attack, Sean? I very much doubt it. They'll just wheel in together.
Yes, I think we'll just see them wheeling in together, and you know, the pace is going to be quite fast moving along here the last number of kilometres. You know, no opportunity really for the big favourites to steal any time on the other ones.
Well, let's just look out for the big name riders here. Is anybody going for this? It looks like Valjevets. Is this?
It's
Facci. And then who's a bit further back? Vorganov. And is that indeed Tadej Valjevets, who's just taken a few more seconds back? I think it probably was, but only a couple. The AG2R rider, who started at 12th today. This is the group with Lance Armstrong, Jaroslav Popovic leading them in with Damiano Cunego on the wheel here. And they're still making sure they take care of Lance Armstrong. He's not abandoned, is he, Sean? Because they still need to bring him on for the Tour de France. So they've always got 1 or 2 or 3 men with him.
Yes, well, I think the position today is that Popovic, he was also in trouble, and maybe came a little bit from behind and joined up with Lance and then decided to stay with him. And certainly, you know, for the morale of a rider, it's important that you have a teammate, but and it's also good to keep on riding here. And you know, this is all about just building your fitness and building your stamina for the events to come.
Damiano Cunego lying on the back of Lance Armstrong here, finishes at 2:56 down.